choice.
What will it take for her to see the man behind the tent and fight for me? I'm just kidding, and I'm enough, and I'm great at doing stuff. So hey, check me out, yeah, I'm just kidding, baby. I'm just kidding. I'll see you on the Malibu beach.
Hello and welcome back to We Bought a Mic, a pop culture podcast. We bombed a mic, a pop culture doll cast.
Oh, we're talking about Haunted Mansion today?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. Thank God I prepared.
For a very special episode, a big old double stack extra IMAX sized discussion of Barbie and
in 60s, a Patrick Wilson's production.
I think it's in 5DS.
It isn't. It's in 5DS. 5 idiots.
Okay, well.
In 5 idiots.
And see you next week.
All right, and bye.
I just told you guys I wouldn't be having my A-game today. I don't know what to...
You did start.
I warned you.
You started this right before the pod by saying that exactly, so.
Barbie and Oppenheimer, also known as Barbenheimer. Welcome. My name's Ernest.
My name's Barbenheimer.
Hi, Ken.
I also, my alternative is I'm Podcast Ken.
Okay.
My job is podcast.
And I'm Alan. There's just one me.
You're an ally.
Wow. You are.
I think Alan's a little more than an ally, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, they couldn't say that. That would really rile up the
Bro's
the
left
certain crowd.
Yeah. Man, and it's so cool because they were able to keep in that crowd still
Right.
by not including that
Yeah.
part.
Yeah, now
Everybody
the
else is really,
conservatives love it.
I just saw-
they're really
I just
cool
saw,
about Alan actually being straight.
Ben Shapiro just logged Barbie a third time on Letterboxd.
Nice.
So he really
Man,
hates
could
it.
you imagine if Ben Shapiro was on Letterboxd? That would rule so
Yeah.
hard. I would like.
I
be
guarantee
up to
you
date
he's
every
on
single
there.
Yeah.
He's got burners. I know he's on.
thing. I just want to find it so bad.
His top 4 would be
I guarantee
like,
if we search and we organize by half-star rankings on Letterboxd, we might be able to find his burner.
Ben Shapiro's top 4 on Letterboxd.
I mean,
God's not dead.
I hate to say it, but like one of them would definitely be a Christopher Nolan movie.
Oh, if that, it could be 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Really easily. And
Yeah.
I like Chris Nolan a lot.
I love
but-
Chris Nolan.
There are other people who also share that like.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
You know? 'Cause
What are Ben Shapiro's favorite movies?
Birth of a Nation.
Okay, there is a
Probably-
Reddit list of Ben Shapiro's recommended movies.
Dances with Wolves has to be really
The Dark
high up
Knight.
there.
Someone on IMDb.
I'm gonna say Dark Knight if it's a Nolan.
And
And then
what is this? I think someone was just asking in the subreddit if someone knew, and then the first
Are
comment
you
is
an r/Ben Shapiro right now?
yeah. And then
It's,
someone commented, he doesn't have very good taste.
you know who made that thread is Dane.
Dane's like,
Probably.
I have to know more about this
Dane,
guy.
Dane is addicted to torturing himself watching conservative content that
What
he
is-
hates and disagrees with.
What is
We love a
the
masochist.
website Flist? Is that like a right-wing letterbox?
List?
Flist? What's going on?
Just the worst name I've ever heard in my entire life.
So
So we're talking Barbenheimer.
one of the more
seeing-
significant things to happen in the movie
Wait
in
a
the
second.
last decade.
I am seeing Flist referred to. It's also a furry Wikipedia. That's I think I might have stumbled onto a kink site. So I'm going to go ahead and click the backspace out of here and
just
get out of that.
No, bookmark really
Okay,
quick.
am I
So-
going? I am on my work laptop right now, so it's probably really good for us that I should do this
Cool.
here.
In the
I'm gonna
midst-
start emailing you porn.
In the midst of a double Hollywood strike, actors and writers were with you in solidarity. in the midst of the studios getting caught holding the bag with the streaming wars, and we're certainly entering a new phase of the streaming era. We're essentially realizing that the consumer was essentially getting freebies, and now it's all crumbling.
Yeah, it was all at the expense of Mr. Grip.
Yeah,
And Mr. Extra, Mr.
In what seems like, with these fall festivals getting or I guess the entire fall film release calendar getting pushed, we have a record-breaking box office weekend with Barbie and Oppenheimer for a combined, I think, 311 million box office. Barbie, $162 million opening, the biggest weekend of the year. Probably going to be the biggest movie of the year.
Yeah, biggest opening for a female director, biggest opening for a comedy
ever.
Period.
That's nuts.
I know, which when we get into Barbie, that's a big chunk of what I want to talk about is the triumph of it being a funny comedy.
Yeah, an absurd comedy.
Yeah, like a silly,
which we love.
like a goofy ass movie.
Yeah.
I think that what we need to take away from this weekend, let's act like we're like a ringer pod. Here's what to take away from the Barbenheimer weekend.
Lessons learned.
Top 5. Let's draft lessons.
Yeah.
That we've learned.
Number 1, make your movie a meme.
It's kind of, part of it is like a memification, because what I think the end result of that memification and that internet craze needs to be people dressing up to go to that movie.
It's
The event
Gentle
is-
Minions
yeah.
all over again. This is why Gentle Minions was
the Gentle Minions represented a shift in the entire paradigm.
But that was
culture.
Gen Z. This was very millennial.
This is the millennials. Yeah, this is one for us.
Either way, though, it is reinventizing movies in a way that movies have not become an eventized thing.
I saw so many, I saw old ladies wearing pink to that movie.
Dude,
you know what I mean? There's such a variety
I
of
saw
people.
so many people at the movies.
Packed.
When I went to see Barbie, I don't think I've seen that theater that packed ever. Like, not even when I went to see Avengers Endgame. Not even when I went to see Spider-Man No Way Home, which had, I think, bigger openings than this total. But this was just, the people were out. The people were out on a Friday night.
I know.
To go to the theater in pink.
And the general, the most impressive thing, I think, in some, if you were to pick between the two, is Barbie, the success that it's had, just given the incredible number of limitations to what you would think the box office would be.
Right.
Woman comedy.
Right.
Barbie. But it's also, that's a ton of money for a movie like Oppenheimer to fucking make.
80 mil.
That is a fuckload of money.
It's his third highest opening ever.
And this movie is the least, intended to be
it's a 3-hour talkie biopic.
Yeah, it's a fucking it's a historical biopic, and
it's selling out. It's like selling out like IMAX.
It's selling out. The reception is positive.
A cinema score.
It audiences are liking it. The word of mouth for both of these movies is going to be great.
Yeah.
It's
what a moment. We won.
Well, that's the thing and especially I don't want to jump the gun too much here, but this might have been the moment in movies of 2023.
Maybe the last moment.
Depending on what happens with the strike and with movies getting pushed. But you guys are right, because the difference between this weekend and something like we saw with No Way Home or Endgame, Infinity War, any of these, Avatar 2, everybody is going to the movies for one thing. And if you aren't into that one thing, then you're like, I'm good. I'll just stay home. I'll watch Netflix. I'll find something else. It's the diversity of both Oppenheimer and Barbie that both of them, one's
pink, one's not, one's black.
One, we'll get into it. Both of them are very well made, very good movies.
It's black, but also so white.
It's crazy that if you make a good movie, people will go see it.
It's wild if you don't just copy and paste the same formula that you've been doing.
You say that, but that also wasn't isn't always the case.
Right, obviously.
With good movies. But also there aren't a ton of good movies that thread the needle in this particular way of being large enough to hold that
Right.
like general audience weight. Like,
But it's-
that's hard, man.
It's also a thing where Oppenheimer, I have thoughts about Oppenheimer that I'll say for a second, but Barbie, I feel like, is such a sensation because it is so different of a blockbuster than what we have gotten in the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Movies aren't made for women anymore. Like, movies are just kind of not.
They're
there's been
made
this
for like
whole-
teenage boys.
Yeah, exactly. It's made for like, I want to watch my action figures punch
Yeah.
each other, which is fine. I guess there's a place in cinema for
Yeah.
that. But there's also a place for $100 million budget, female driven comedies to have a place
God,
and to
what a
thrive.
time.
And there was just such a fervor behind this movie because of this untapped audience that's just been waiting, yearning for having something to be like
Something
a movie for
different.
me, something that is different. Oppenheimer, on the other hand, is also extremely different. I think that we'll talk about only Christopher Nolan can make this movie. It is a movie that, despite kind of my qualms with Christopher Nolan that I've voiced in the past, this is a movie that only he can make. And it's the only movie that he can make at this point in time when he has amounted the
Yeah.
clout that he has. that
Multiple
he can
blank checks.
get people to come out here and see his 3-hour biopic.
Yeah.
It's a long, but I do think that Oppenheimer can credit a ton of its success at the end of the day to the Barbenheimer memification.
Yeah.
It became such a phenomenon on TikTok, on Twitter, everywhere else, of people that would never normally want to go see Oppenheimer that are like, well, I got to do it for Barbenheimer.
Right.
Got to do it for the bit.
The number of people that did the double feature is astounding.
It's unbelievable.
Like, shout out to my brother. He did it. Like, Harry did it.
millions and millions of
Yeah.
people.
Personally, I think that's insane behavior. But like, if it's something that will get people to go to the theater, like, please, all for it. Like, I don't know either combination that would serve each movie better. I just think the way we did it, all three of us, we saw it on separate days.
Yeah,
Personally,
we
I
all
think
saw
that's the way to do
Oppenheimer
it.
first and then Barbie, which
Yeah.
if I was doing a double feature, don't end with the 3-hour biopic is just kind
And
of
with the pink
my rule
party.
of thumb. Yeah. If somebody's doing Barbenheimer like 2 weeks later, just
Yeah.
because they don't want to be completely left out, go to Oppenheimer, go out for like nice dinner, drinks, talk about it with your significant other, with your pals about what you saw, and then get a little bit loosey and then just roll into Barbie and have a blast for 2
Big gap
hours.
in the middle, I would say, because
At least a couple hours.
when
yeah.
Oppenheimer ends, you're not going to want to immediately like go into.
Yeah, people who walk from one screening into the other, that is
You're going to want to
insane.
sit and think
Yeah.
hard.
You know what the best double feature I ever did was when we were like 15 and we went to
Toy Story 3.
went to AMC with some girlies.
Or not-
It was Toy Story 3.
Okay.
Toy Story 3. The girlies split. We just go right back in Inception.
Incredible.
We didn't know, Hunter. Had you been there that day,
Life changing.
I know,
this entire
dreams are
episode
really
would
important.
be way different.
Dreams are really important.
You would have been the most annoying
Yeah.
fucking guy ever, just like we were.
Don't worry,
Joseph
you guys were
Gordon-
enough of that. So
Joseph Gordon-Levitt rizzed me up, just straight up.
the funniest part of that was you guys coming like being like peak 15-year-old boys like, dude, am I in a freaking dream right now?
You don't know. You don't know. You don't know.
Cool. Is the top still spinning?
The important thing is he doesn't care.
It's actually
He doesn't
it's
look
actually
at it.
Mal's totem,
Jesus
not
Christ.
Cobb's.
Please, I'm trying to come into this podcast with an open mind. Please, please, please.
So yeah, I think that the quiet part that's like not getting the spotlight is that Oppenheimer is kind of the more mind-breaking success story. Like I was over in the corner whispering the song of Barbie. I was like, hey, it's coming, it's happening, it's gonna be a thing. I didn't think it was going to be as big of a thing as it was, but I knew that it was floating around out there, and something was going to happen with Barbie.
The sell of Barbie was very well executed. The advertising was really good. They did a pretty all hands on deck press thing, and
that specific shade of pink.
And the movie is cast by Allison Jones, and you see the cast even in a trailer, and you're like, Allison Jones cast just like work. Like they mesh. She finds the right person, and yeah, you watch the trailer, you're like, oh yeah, there's a lot here. There's the chemistry and this is like going to be a quality movie. Greta, anytime someone takes on a larger and larger, or in this case, just like a more creatively, free project as opposed to Little Women, which, it stayed really grounded in the Little Women world. This was way more constructive of a vision. And she did an incredible job. She really did. She directed the absolute fuck out of it. Her and Noah wrote a really great script.
Yeah.
Good movie.
Do we need to highlight the man behind the female empowerment
Jesus
movie?
Christ, Drew. God, my
No,
God.
I'm just saying, maybe he's the reason why the movie's good.
Okay. all right. I mean, Noah Baumbach is like one of my favorite screenwriters ever. So, and Greta Gerwig, whenever we get into Barbie, is quickly becoming one of my favorite directors working right now. Absolutely love everything that she's doing. I think I said this in a group chat that we have, I think a week or two before Barbie came out, because we should say that the phenomenon of Barbenheimer, although it was like exciting for us in the film world, we had no idea how big this was going to get.
Right.
Like Barbie,
It's
I
shocking.
think just a month ago was tracking around 60 mil. 60, some people are like $80 million. I went to the mall about a week or two before this movie came out. Maybe it was a couple weeks before it came out. And when I tell you that like every single fucking store that I went into the mall had some kind of Barbie tie-in,
Wow.
I was just like, yeah, this movie's making $150 million. There's no way. Like people.
Well, the tracking kept going, like every couple days. It was like, oh, it might make 100. Oh, it'll definitely get
120.
over 100.
Yeah, it's insane how much people just don't really get marketed to, who are laymen who don't ever go to the movies, or
Right.
who go to the movies once a year, every couple years. They now know that Marvel movies are a thing that come out.
Yeah.
But even still, I feel like with the Disney Plus of everything, they're
Right.
like, I can save that for home. That doesn't feel like as much of an event anymore.
Well, see, yeah. This is the thing, is over the past, I don't know, 5-10 years, maybe more, honestly, we've been trained to expect the summer movie to be a superhero action movie. Like that's what people have been trained.
Hey, Ernie, it was.
I know, and
That's
we
that's
loved
what
it.
she is to us.
Oh, Barbie.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about The Flash.
And this year is officially like the end of that. Like every superhero movie has underperformed, and now Barbie's going to be the biggest movie of the year. And that tells you that people don't want to see that anymore. And obviously like the quality has gone down too. But that's the thing, is like, you can't expect people to just stay on the same tracks forever. I think it's good that we had that run, but there's a shift happening where you had this setup of every single year people knew what to expect from a summer movie, and then suddenly now we're in something else. Now we're in a completely different, we have shifted gears into something else. And like, yeah, maybe now we're going to get like movies about toys and video games and all this shit. But if that's what we're going to get, then I would love to see more things like Barbie.
It's breaking the mold at least a little bit, because I think that going a step further beyond the superheroes, obviously superheroes are the things that most define the blockbuster entertainment that we have been force fed, especially when it comes to summertime. But I think really going a step further, it's Disney. Disney has owned the summer blockbuster for the last decade plus. When you take on not just the Marvel, but also the live action Disney adaptations,
Right.
The whatever else,
Lion King made a bunch of
the
money.
Pixar movies that they're going to have. And I mean, I could do a whole other fucking episode about this, about how Disney has dropped the ball in the last 2 years in such a colossal way that Disney is not at the front.
They diluted the product with Disney Plus.
Yeah, I mean, there's all of that. The problem that for you guys who enjoy your slop have seen with Star Wars and with your Marvel shows that are on Disney Plus, but also they've trained audiences to like, don't come see our movies in theaters. Just wait. It'll be on Disney Plus soon enough. Disney Plus has just become this thing that I'll just wait until Elemental shows up there. Why rush out opening weekend to see a movie like that? And whenever you dilute your product like that, whenever you say just give it 6 weeks and then you can
Yeah.
watch it at home, people don't care to fucking spend money at a box office to go see it anymore.
Right.
You have to have some kind of limitation, create some kind of allure to make people want to come out and see your fucking movie. Otherwise, it's the same thing with Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones, they right before Dial of Destiny came out, they were just like, here's all the Indiana Jones movies on Disney Plus. Watch all these classic Indiana Jones movies now. Not to mention that movie got very poor reviews because it's a bad movie. It's fine.
Hunter.
It's not good.
He didn't dial in.
I did dial, unfortunately. I dialed out. But whenever you have the combination of bad marketing, mediocre movies, and kind of subconsciously telling your fans it doesn't matter, it'll be on D+ in 6 weeks, then you're gonna do this to yourself.
I mean, aside from like the franchise thing, the whole comic book superhero thing, there's the sequel part of it. Like Barbie and Oppenheimer are not sequels to something. I mean, you could say, like Mattel toy adaptation. You could say like, historical event, book adaptation, right? But at their core, they're giving us something new, right? They're not a sequel. If you look back at the last 15 years of summer movies, The Dark Knight came out 15 years ago. That was the biggest movie of that summer. If we go each year, Transformers 2, Revenge of the Fallen, Toy Story 3, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, The Avengers, Iron Man 3, Guardians of the Galaxy. That's a full Disney run right there. Jurassic World, Finding Dory, Wonder Woman, Incredibles 2, The Lion King. Like, not only is Disney dominating there, but they're just regurgitating
It's
past
just the same shit.
titles.
Yeah.
Then you get into the pandemic, you get Tenet. Boom, boom. Here we
Cool.
go. Let's
You
go.
win by default.
Movies are back.
That's
We're so back.
Black Widow, Top Gun Maverick, and then this year, which right now it's listed as
Black
across
Widow was the #1 movie of 2021.
according to Box Office Mojo.
Is that right?
It is.
Oh my
What
God.
the fuck else?
What? No, I know. It's just, I know that that's still peak pandemic times, but like, Jesus Christ.
A movie that most people like. I didn't meet anyone that just genuinely like loved that movie.
I haven't met anybody who's watched that movie.
Unfortunately, I have, because I hang out in fucking nerd circles. You dork ass motherfuckers. I didn't see that shit.
Hey man, shout out to Venom. Let There Be Carnage. You were robbed.
Also,
it didn't come out during the summer.
Christopher Nolan actually, the first time that he saw what's her name is in that movie in Black Widow.
Florence Pugh.
Oh, Pew Pew.
Yup.
Pew Pew Hive.
She rizzed up Robert Oppenheimer.
He saw her death scene in Black Widow and he was like, I need to get that girl fucked on a chair.
Nice. Yeah. Cool.
Stat. So any more kind of thoughts on the Barbenheimer phenomenon or just overall thoughts on these movies? We're going to talk in depth about both of them. There's going to be timestamps in the descriptions as to the full-on spoiler discussions based on the box office receipts and how sold out theaters are over the next week, 2-3 weeks. People have seen these movies, are going to see these movies. So we're going to get into the specifics of them, but do you guys want to share any other overall thoughts?
No, I
we've
think
done
it's kind of funny that these movies do have like a little bit of dialogue with each other for how different they are. Like they actually do share like a little bit of DNA, and I think at the end of the day, it's just two auteurs that are trying to make like fit stories about themselves and put their auteurist look through some kind of IP or historical document.
And going back to the point you made about like the juxtaposition, the pink and the black, the dark and the light, like it is kind of poetic that they got intertwined into this. I guess that was part of the meme, of the whole Barbenheimer phenomenon. But there is something so, I think that, as we get more removed from it, we're gonna see more like poetic parallels.
But do we think that's going to happen is the thing. I am curious of like,
maybe not at scale, but like there's gonna be little things.
At the end of the day, like, sure, it's nice for this because it became a meme. You know who's not happy right now? Paramount, because Mission Impossible is getting fucked because of Barbenheimer becomes such a thing.
Tom's fine. Tom's gonna be
Tom
fine.
will be good. Are you guys excited for Saw Patrol? It's when Saw 10 and Paw Patrol the movie come out on the same day.
Oh,
in October.
dude.
Yeah.
No, yeah, you're totally right. I mean, yeah, one's a movie about one of the most important and consequential inventions of the 20th century, maybe of all human history, that which sent booming reverberations through our whole society and culture and changed the world forever. And the other one's about Robert Oppenheimer.
What the? I thought you were gonna do the one, and then you said the other.
I saw you reading off of your laptop, sir.
Kaboom! No, the other thing I was going to say is that there's something so poetic about these movies coming out at the same time, because like it's like one's for the boys and one's for the girls, and they're both for the non-binaries. And in Ken's Mojo Dojo Casa House,
they're both for the like on the spectrum type, like cool MFs.
Right.
They're all for like the quirked up MFs.
Yeah.
In the Ken
Gen Z's invited to both houses.
Right. In the Ken Mojo Dojo Casa House, like the a poster of the mushroom cloud would just fit right at home. You know, like
I honestly, when Barbie 5 comes out, they could do me explaining Oppenheimer to you the entire time while the story's on.
You know, like it's the
Let me
same
explain
thing.
to you the importance of Professor Lawrence.
The Kens are so into their little science experiments.
What are we talking about, Barbie or what?
Let's
Well, what do we have? All right, so we have a whiskey bottle on the table. I'm gonna grab the rosé.
Oh,
are we playing like a little game now to see who we're starting with here? I will be honest, I already have a little bit of whiskey, like whiskey residue in my glass. So I'm not going to put rosé and then put whiskey back in.
No, we're passing that rosé shit around.
So how are we feeling?
Just scissorping out of the bottle.
Should we drink whiskey during Barbie and rosé during Oppenheimer? What should we do here? What are we feeling? What's the vibe? I know, Hunter, you wanted to talk about Nolan in depth. You wanted to do a whole ranking. Would that be more appropriate for like the end of the episode? What's the feeling?
We can save Oppenheimer for a second. It's up to you guys.
Okay.
I have seen Oppenheimer twice, and I have not seen Barbie twice. I'm seeing Barbie a second time this Saturday.
I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world. Life of atomic energy. It's fantastic. Oh. Come on, Barbie. Let's go become Death Destroyer of Worlds.
I can't believe that Barbie became Death Destroyer of Worlds. That was a twist I didn't see coming.
She did.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I'm going to mix my rosé with my whiskey because I'm a fucking Barbenheimer freak.
That's true Barbenheimering right there. Yeah.
All right, some ASMR.
Okay. Pop that. Oh, all right. That was a nice little pop.
That Ernie didn't strain at all doing that for the listeners. He definitely did.
I was worried about the angle.
You actually we're going to go too hard, and I was scared. You were going to shatter the bottle of rosé.
So as we pass around the rosé bottle, let's talk about Barbie. What do we think?
Glad it's been a great calendar year for Margot, at least for the film bros more than anyone, with Babylon and then this
and Asteroid City. She has, it's only one scene, but it's a consequential scene
because she was starting to become someone that people almost talk shit about in terms of she's not opening any fucking movies.
I mean, what's it called? The David O. Russell movie that she was in, Amsterdam. Just that looked like it was a bad time.
That
was Margot's fault,
or as I call it, Floppenheimer.
Ooh, got him.
Okay. We can start the discussion here. I think that Margot Robbie has the belt right now for the greatest actor alive.
She's incredible in the movie.
I truly think that she can do, especially when you look at Babylon and then this. I mean, just Barbie alone, the amount of range and complexity that she shows in her character throughout the course of this movie. She had me hooting and hollering. She had me weeping. She did it all. And I think that everything that she is bringing to the screen is it's incalculable.
I think
incalculable.
I think she's doing the more difficult performance in the film. It's a lot more quiet in terms of comparison to Ryan Gosling. Ryan Gosling gets to kind of steal the show. He's the bigger performance.
Yeah, it's also just it's a different skill set. Like it's two very different roles, because for a lot of people, doing big comedy would be more difficult. But like, yeah, she's doing like some like traditional, like, she's doing like an amount of dramatic acting in this.
Yeah,
that's
no,
way higher.
it's like a slow mental breakdown. But yeah, let's back up a little bit before we really zero in on the characters. Just to kind of do the broad strokes. The plot is very simple. It's Barbie. Is it very simple?
I was like, you're explaining this, and I don't know. There's a lot of meat on the bone here for what this movie is about.
It's essentially a very kind of standard hero's journey of a hero in a world that travels outside the world and returns to the world changed.
Yeah, there are a lot
in
of
the most broad strokes possible. Yes,
so that's what grounds it. Is there is like a extreme simplicity to like the base of what it's getting at. For example, as far as like this template goes, they were very smart in following. I think more than anything else, they followed a lot of the lead that the Lego Movie set in terms of making a like toy movie, like with an extreme amount of self-awareness, reference to the brand while still being above the brand, and not feeling like the movie is made to service the brand, feeling like the movie is almost making fun of the product that it is in a lot of ways. And even plot elements are similar. It's just this movie leans way into more genuinely interesting stuff. Like the Lego Movie is like, it's for jokes. Like the Lego Movie is
but so is this one in a way.
This movie's super zany. It's just the Lego Movie like doesn't slow down. For, like
the Lego Movie isn't like about like having an existential crisis and like, what is my purpose in the world?
So it is, but just in a really light way.
Yeah,
like it's
it's more for kids. I don't know if this movie is for kids. Kids could see this movie and have fun, but I don't think it's made for them.
I think the beauty of Barbie is I saw this movie at, I think it was a 10:30 or 10:40 screening on Friday night. Absolutely sold out. Like all except for like 3 seats in the front, completely packed. And there was a moderate amount of kids in there. And the little kids that were there fucking loved it. They walked out of the theater like loving so much of it, because I think that so much of the comedy that's in this movie, well, it's not just like colorful baby sensory videos. I think like so much of the comedy in this is very broad. So much of the comedy, like silly. Especially everything that the Kens are doing, is just something that like a small child can pick up on, even if they don't get the jokes. When they saying I'm going to beat each other off, like the kids aren't. Like a 7-year-old isn't understanding what they're saying.
Mommy, I'm gonna beat you up.
But it's still like, it's very funny. It's very, very broad in that sense, while still having so much complexity there for like any adults that are watching this movie.
So I'll back up a little bit. Like obviously in Greta we trust. I've been really, really excited for this movie, but as the hype built up, and it became clear that this was going to be, to some extent, a phenomenon, and that people were going to turn out to see this, a little doubt started to set in. And I was kind of thinking like, what's this movie going to be? I know it's going to, in some way, be a commentary about like Barbie's impact on society. How are people going to react to that? Are people going to be okay with the deconstruction element and the commentary on the patriarchy element? Like I could see all these things coming, and I started.
You were preparing for the Ben YouTube Ben Shapiro response.
I started, because that was the thing. Is like, okay, can this movie get over that hurdle and really become a moment, become a thing?
And the answer is, if it's good, like. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, easily.
And sitting there watching the movie, there was a moment where I was still doubting it. Like the middle chunk of the movie, I think gets kind of shaky. Like I don't know if Will Ferrell as the Mattel CEO like completely works.
Another Lego Movie situation, by the way.
I think that some of the stuff with like them riding around in that car, like I felt like I was in a different movie, You know, the Barbie world is such a feast for the eyes. Like it's such a feat of production design and costume design.
Yeah, I mean, really, more than any time is when they're on that main set in the Barbie world.
It's incredible.
You know, when it doesn't feel digital at all, because they're, you know, they run through some digital backdrops in the Barbie world, but that set is
gorgeous. I want to be there.
Yeah,
well,
it's a thing of like, if you want to sort of capture the, you know, the micro macro feel of like having a dollhouse, like you have to build a set. It has to feel like plastic. It can't feel like fake plastic.
And I think she nailed that. I think from a directorial perspective for those sequences, for the Barbie world sequences or Barbie Land or whatever it's called, 10 out of 10, perfection. I just think that when this movie feels like it needs to move its characters from place to place to advance the plot, that movement isn't as smooth as I would like it to be. But then again, I don't know what a movie set entirely in the Barbie world looks like. If you want this character to go through the journey she goes through, where she essentially by the end of the movie becomes a human living in the real world. Like obviously you need those things. I just felt that middle chunk like kind of losing me a little bit. Beside the point, I think that there are moments in this movie where like I did feel like it was being what I feared, which was an advertisement for itself. And there are moments where it does that, where you know, you have the dresses like pop up and like,
oh, that
show
rocks.
you.
I know, love that.
I know. I didn't mind it. I'm just saying that there are aspects of this movie that it feels like Greta is inside the toy box a little bit. Like she is Barbie in the box that Mattel is trying to put her into. And that the movie's not necessarily hindered from that. I think she thrives in the box and she creates something that's like truly new and original and unique. But at the same time, it has to advance. It has to be an extension of the marketing campaign for this movie. It can't derail all of the momentum of the marketing.
Yeah, because I mean, we're the movie. It for example, it does a lot more than I thought it would to explore the idea of the concept of Barbie being harmful to little girls.
Which are some of the best parts of the movie.
I know it's awesome, but the movie simply cannot end on that idea. Like it has to end with them realizing that no, actually Barbie is great. Like there's not an avenue for them to
for
be
the
like,
movie to be called Barbie.
Yeah, and like
absolutely.
about a Barbie.
Yeah.
And that's something that I knew going in. It's like, you know you're going to watch the Barbie movie. It's not going to be like
actually burn all your Barbies.
Yeah.
But it does become a point where it's like Barbie isn't inherently good or bad for children. It's expectations that are put on children that are bad for children.
Yeah,
like that's
about what they need to be.
That's kind of what's at the core of this movie. And like I've heard some of the complaints, particularly around the Mattel stuff and around that whole like plot line going to the Mattel office. Personally, I really like that set piece that happens, but
It's like Pac-Man a little bit.
Yeah, I enjoyed a lot of. There's a lot of like interpretive dance style sequences in this movie that pretty much all worked for
the
me.
way. Yeah, when all the Mattel guys are like moving in unison.
Yeah.
That it's like cartoon directing.
Yeah.
It's really, that's some of the most versatile directing I've ever seen her do, where it's, you know, Lady Bird and Little Women are set in reality.
Yeah.
And this movie is like, it's doing like Terry Gilliam shots
Right.
sometimes.
Yes.
It's doing like crazy looking shit.
But sometimes it isn't. Like that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, there's also you have to have the real world stuff because the core of this movie is America Ferrera and her relationship with her daughter. I
so
just had
good.
her name in front of me. Ariana Greenblatt, who played Sasha, her daughter. Everything between the two of them is so good and so well realized.
That's the heart.
And that is the heart that this movie has. And that's like why, even if there are like a couple of speed bumps, you almost have to get through those to get that heart.
Yeah.
I felt while watching this movie like this movie is going to become a classic. This movie
Yes.
is going to, as I was watching it, I was just thinking in my head,
5-10 years down the road.
this is going to be so many people's favorite movie ever. When they see this at like a critical juncture, like that you
Absolutely.
can just tell this is going to like inspire my whole personality.
Yeah.
This is going
That's
to be
why
everything.
any complaints that I may have, I'm not really clinging on to them too tightly because I know that, like, seeing the movie, sitting here watching the movie,
it
even though
feels
I'm
timeless
bumping-
kind of
yeah,
already.
even though I'm bumping on things here and there, like, yeah, I could nitpick.
That's the
But
thing.
it's just so singular.
I know. Well, that's what like the way that you can sort of, wash that all away in your head is by saying, well, this movie's in uncharted territory a lot of the time. Like it's doing stuff that there isn't much of a blueprint for, as much as you can pull from this and that.
It's like kind of making a new thing.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that excuses a lot of, because I think you articulated like your issues with the movie really well, and very similar to how I felt at points where it was like, is this about to get worse? And then it never actually gets like,
but it ends so well.
I know, that's the thing. It's
Yeah.
just there are moments where you're like, this part's kind of
Yeah.
Um,
like, what's going on?
and then they bring you back, and it's that happens a lot in movies that are dealing with entirely new scenarios for characters. I think another a surprising elephant for me was that I don't want to call it like a full, I mean, there is an incredible ensemble cast in this movie, but it's not an ensemble movie in the way that, like,
It's Barbie and Ken.
it's Barbie and Ken and then the mom and daughter. And that's interesting to me. Like, it's called Barbie, but Oppenheimer's like, that shit's about Oppenheimer.
We're going to talk about a lot of guys.
This movie, though, Barbie jumps. It has like sort of multiple protagonists because Ken is given an entire internal arc as well.
Yeah.
He gets way more. He gets way more screen time.
So
than
much
I
more
thought.
than I was expecting. And then it's just like, oh, is Ken going to be the bad guy? Is Ken going to be the antagonist? That was the one moment
In a
that
way, he
I would
is.
say. But he's
he's just dumb.
Exactly.
He's
It's like
he's ignorant.
He's just
out of
Ken.
He's ignorant out of stupidity. He's not malicious.
There's no malicious intent in anything.
Every character's like their own antagonist in a way.
It's everybody's just having a journey.
You know who did awesome in this movie that I didn't want to admit is goddamn Simu Liu, the homophobe himself. Man, he's funny.
Yeah, he's really
I
good.
didn't like
this.
it.
I've never seen him be funny before. I was like, oh, he's funny. Like he's given reads, man.
I really liked him a lot in this movie.
I didn't vibe with it. I mean, it didn't break the movie for me. I just kept looking at him. And
were you bringing in the external baggage when seeing Simu Liu? Is that your problem?
I love that there's an Asian Ken. I'm all for representation.
I think it should have been Jonathan Majors, but
there is a lot of outside influence.
Yeah,
here.
you just see him and you're like, fuck that guy.
On the press tour, like just the way all the other cast members like kind of talk to him and like refer to him, they're all like, you're not it.
I mean, this is another thing where I think that the time frames, like I think that this was post like knowing
Marvel.
It was post knowing that he is homophobic.
The other thing is he's in the other two. He plays himself in an episode of the other two, and he's like leaning into being a piece of shit.
That's funny. Well, that's tough.
I wish that's what this was.
That's tough in its own right because Chris Kelly is apparently a horrible person, the maker of the other two.
Right.
So that's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, he's being a dick in this movie.
Sure.
Yeah, you weren't supposed to cheer for him at any point in time. I do love him and Kingsley Ben-Adir though, as like the two
loved him.
Kingsley Ben-Adir is amazing.
He's in so Secret Invasion, dog shit show. Terrible. Garbage. He's in that show and he might as well like not be in that show because he's literally not doing anything, just fully coasting through it. And then you see him in this and it's like, oh, dude can fucking rock.
As one of 14 people who's seen what's it called? One Night in Miami.
Oh.
Yeah, I love that guy.
I am one of 14 people.
Yeah, it's you, me, and like literally no one else saw Regina King's directorial debut, One Night in Miami.
Oh, no, I didn't see that. Sorry.
Oh, well, okay.
Is it made by Marvel? Is it on Disney Plus?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, he plays Malcolm X, the Marvel superhero Malcolm X.
But But yeah, I think that the Ken part is Ryan Gosling is a revelation in this movie. I think they're gonna put him up for supporting. He should be up for lead, like straight up. He is a co-lead.
I know,
this
but
movie.
he doesn't. He's not
Yeah,
going to
he
win
can't,
any leads.
But supporting, I think that there's actually a chance they might get nominated, which would rock.
Well, so
he's so fucking funny.
yeah, it's not
unbelievable
it's-
how funny he is.
It's one of those things that's like it's being discussed plenty and it'll never be enough for me because it's really we don't have a lot of guys right now who can do this. We don't have a lot of dudes who are in this lane of being an A-list actor who is Loki he's always been a treat on SNL. You know what I mean? He can blend into like
Avatar sketch.
he can blend into like a Kyle.
Pirates.
He's blended into multiple. He did one of the fake sitcom sketches with them as well. He blended into that really perfectly. So he like gets it. You know what I mean?
I mean, dude, Blade Runner
Alien-
2049 is like one of my all times.
a genuine like a big concern of mine was like, can this sort of triumvirate, especially because you could tell even from the promotional stuff that Gosling was going to be doing a lot of funny shit.
Yeah.
So I was like, can Greta, Noah, and Ryan go broad enough to go for, because I know that I will think that whatever them like the three of them do is funny.
Yeah.
But you know, it was sort of up in the air. I like Noah doesn't write fucking broad scripts. Greta
There's a
has
couple.
written two shockingly broad scripts that weren't even the first one wasn't even intended to be, and it turned out to be broad. So I shouldn't have doubted her in the first place. But it was just like, this is a different type of fucking comedy. This is like silly, goofy.
It's
like
an
you said-
all-timer.
Like you said, if you're 5, you think it's funny. If if you're 30, you think it's funny.
It is funny. I do like have a couple moments in the movie. There's a couple dialogue moments where I was like, yeah, Noah wrote that line. Like I can tell this is a Noah
Was
scene.
it the
that he
Stephen
wrote.
Malcolm?
I think most of the third act, like the very end of this movie, feels very Noah
with
inspired.
the creator of Barbie.
Yes,
I think
it felt very Noah.
yeah,
But
I also think age-wise, isn't he a bit older than her? I think the Malcolmist reference would line up with him.
yeah, no. Well, I read an interview, or maybe I just like listened to a podcast. I can't remember, but they were talking about that, how the like bits, like the Malcolmist bit, the Godfather bit that all the Kens are doing, which is one of the funniest fucking things I've seen in a movie in so long. And I
Critical
felt
hit, man.
like I started crumbling in the seat
Destroyed.
because I was like, Jesus Christ, I've done all of these things. I literally was at Christmas a couple years ago when The Godfather came out. I was like, no, wait, guy, no, we have to sit through
It's
this scene.
important.
He's leaving the gun in the bathroom stall. We aren't turning this off.
Was this the first Stephen Malcolmist reference in cinema? How seen were you? How did you feel?
I think so. If it came out before Oppenheimer, because there are several in Oppenheimer.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
He listens through the entirety of
No.
Corners.
Stephen Malcolm is one of the physicists.
Yeah.
He helped invent the bomb.
Stephen Malcolmist is actually Benny Safdie is playing, right? He's
so-
like, I believe in hydrogen.
Stephen Malcolmist, of course, referenced in the movie Barbie, is the singer of Pavement and has.
Are you mansplaining Stephen Malcolmist to
and
our
has
audience?
a long and storied solo.
You're like,
artist
hey,
career.
boys, walk away. Ladies, come closer. Let me explain who this is.
I thought that the takeaway from Barbie was that this is how you riz girls,
Okay.
and I think it's working.
Hand me a brewski beer.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Can I get a brewski,
beer?
His style is like literary, but also
my
dadaist in the funniest way.
Let me tell you, I don't think it's fair that Ryan Gosling can be this funny, this like incredible top S tier of an actor, and also be this fucking hot.
Yeah.
It's not fair. Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling on screen together, I was like, fuck me, man. Like,
Greatest movie of all time.
That's like cheating casting those two.
He's
It's
also-
not fair. Like, you just have like the two most like carved from marble actors that we have
Yeah,
right
they're
now.
dolls.
So
They're perfect.
he was, and he put some damn work in on his body.
Yeah.
But he also
that's definitely not CGI whatsoever.
he also has always had like in my opinion, he's always looked pretty goofy for like a hot guy. Like he's always had sort of dopey eyes.
Yeah. I mean, he has some dopey roles, the nice guys.
Yeah, and it plays really great into this part.
Yep.
And also the fact that he's like definitely, like if you were just casting objectively, he's definitely aged out of being cast as fucking Ken. He's like 40.
Right.
And and it just doesn't matter because it's almost like the part was written for him to perform, but I didn't know that he could perform like this. The thing is, I've seen him be like anytime in a movie of his where there's an opportunity for comedy, he fits that tone. Like he's done like Pretty Broad but very subdued and like Crazy Stupid Love back in the day, for example, where it's like, yeah, hey,
he's great in that.
That's a good read. Yeah, pretty funny, Ryan. But this is like he's doing. I can't name 5 other guys who could do all of that.
Yeah,
that we saw.
I
cannot. And same with Margot, by the way. I couldn't. I don't. Who could
they
do
were
that?
both, They were both born to play these
It is
roles.
funny that originally, well, the 2 original people who were cast as Barbie, one of them was, I don't know if you guys saw this, was Amy Schumer, which I think was meant to be a totally different
that was
type
a different
of movie.
production.
That was like 10 years ago.
But the other, I think the main one that people were looking at was Anne Hathaway.
Sure.
And to me, I like Anne Hathaway a lot, but Anne Hathaway is too like put up. She's like too proper to pull off something like this. There's like has to be
do it.
I think I think Anne Hathaway's an incredible actress. I think she could do that.
A different movie.
But there's something about Margot and about Ryan that they both have like a sense of knowing in this without becoming Deadpool winking at the camera.
Yeah,
that I think that is what makes this movie so special, is that there's a knowingness to it without it being meta over the top.
And well,
exactly.
And to that point, I think that what sort of assured me that Margot was going to do great in this movie was I, Tonya, because she's unreal in that movie. And that movie is like, if you've watched it recently, it's worth a rewatch. It's a great movie, but it is so crazy. Like, it is so heightened and way over the top. She's delivering a lot of lines to camera.
Yeah.
Like, she's been able to do something in this arena before. But I mean, and comically, they tried to like make her ugly in that movie, and it was like, okay,
Good luck.
sure. And yeah, in this movie, they just lean into the fact that she's like
perfect.
She looks like an AI, like, you know what I mean? Like, if you ask an AI, like, generate the most like symmetrical face of all time.
Yeah. Which, I mean, so this is something I was thinking about with Mission Impossible, and going into our Tom series, it's like so much of being an actor is your face. Like,
it's how you look from angles.
We have to look at this person's face. We're going to be looking at Tom Cruise's face for a long time. For the next, like,
I'm excited
months
for
of
it.
our
I can't wait
lives.
for it.
And
I've been preparing.
I was thinking about that, and I'm like, I was never repulsed by looking at Nick Cage. I was never repulsed.
You didn't have to like microdose Cage to like actually get your tolerance up to sit through
Robin
it.
Williams' face never like rubbed me the wrong way. And I was thinking about like this movie, like Barbie, like they really pick people who have like perfect faces,
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at Margot Robbie, what she's doing in this movie, obviously, like, I don't want to say that the way she looks is carrying the performance. That's not what I'm saying. I just think that the way she looks hides a lot of the effort. There is so much effort happening behind the surface, under the surface, where it hits you harder later in the movie because you don't see it coming. When she starts to completely just let it rip with her performance, it's like a surprise. It's like a twist.
But then it does. You're right. That's a great point. It tracks because you're like, oh, this whole time, if she's capable of doing this, she could have been doing this the whole time, but it wouldn't have fit early in the movie. We don't need to get like huge signs of her cracking. We just need enough to know that
tiny
we're
little,
gonna get
a close up,
later on.
Close up of her crying for the first time. Like, that's the first.
And
scene of
it's and they're all great. Like the shots remind me of like Kaluuya and Get Out, where like both of their eyes are just like crazy actor, like way over here eyes. But she's so good, and she hasn't been heralded enough as a great actress so much as she has been a celebrity.
Rise Up.
I was gonna say, so in Babylon, you get to see a lot of effort on her part because she's giving like a crazy physical performance, like way over the top performance, and she's doing that incredibly. Not a ton of people saw.
Well,
Babylon.
I think it's interesting though that you mentioned that she's more known for being a celebrity, and I do think that she's more famous for the star of Margot Robbie than her acting ability. And I think that between Babylon and Barbie, it's exactly what you guys are talking about. It's those like the most minute of micro expressions where you can see the cracking before like the character might even know that they are cracking. Like it is what separates the great actors from the all-time actors. And I think that that's where she is teetering on right now. I truly think that she is like unbelievable, some of the stuff that she's doing and her sense of knowing of where she is in her career and how people
she produced
view
this
her.
movie.
If
it's nominated for Best Picture, she'll be nominated.
Yeah, and I think that there's just so much of I mean a lot of it has to be inward looking too, that of course she's gorgeous person that we're praising, that she's a beautiful woman, but she also can look at the history of Hollywood and see how Hollywood treats women as they get into their 30s and as they get into their 40s. And there has to be a sense of knowing, going back to Babylon and then in this, of like what happens when I'm not stereotypical Barbie anymore.
Which is kind of what this movie is about.
Yes.
And again, it also works in a way because she is in her 30s.
Yeah.
They didn't cast like a 20-year-old with zero age on their face.
What's her name? Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's or if they wanted to really lean into like the like iconography of Barbie and like casting like a celebrity, it would just be like some like it would be like Camila Cabello. You know what I mean?
Jesus Christ, I would kill myself.
That's the thing. So for all the little issues that we brought up about this movie being like sort of brandified, like there are, I think, if there are infinity versions of this movie, I'd say 99% of them are worse. And this is
I think this is like one of the best possible outcomes.
Yeah, like it's about as good as you could do.
Yeah, she has to thread the needle. Like you don't get this movie made without balancing.
With everything that was like somewhat required. I can't imagine this movie being much better. I thought it was so good. It succeeds as a comedy. It had the theater laughing. I don't want to.
What was the biggest laugh?
God, I don't know. In my seat, it was the Malcolmist joke. just to you individually.
Your one by one.
Yeah, that killed in G6.
I think for my theater, it was the Pride and Prejudice depressed Barbie.
I mean,
cutaway.
Oh, that was a really good one.
That was terrific. And then
people died at that.
The Ken stuff was just slaying.
Well, for me,
I'm just Ken. That entire set piece, my mouth was agape and just like clapping. Like
the singing in the rain vibes.
Dude, it's unbelievable.
Every what got a laugh was
incredible.
Every cut to Michael Cera got a laugh.
He's really good. Alan.
I wanted to shout out the editor of the movie because there are a lot of visual laughs, and a lot of that comes in directing, and I'm sure that like Greta's involved in that process of it as well. The timing of this movie is phenomenal.
It's unbelievably paced.
And this
incredibly.
is so
the moment that you start to kind of feel it, we are just on to the next thing.
His name's like Nick Huai. This guy has directed all of the Greta movies, or not directed. Sorry, he's edited all the Greta movies. Lady Bird's another one that has a very
perfect editing,
very distinctive editing, like montage.
I just rewatched Little Women. The editing is incredible in that movie.
Yeah. So
the dual timelines.
Yeah. So sort of an unsung. He directed all of The Night Of, or not directed, but edited. Sorry.
I haven't seen that.
But, it's incredible. And it again it's a whole different distinctive style. So this is the range that Greta, like this fucking editor, good for you, Noah.
Everything, the cinematography, the set design.
Yeah, I wanted to pull up Sarah Greenwood, who's the production designer on this.
It's the best of the year by far.
This has to be like the front runner for production.
If it's gonna win any Oscar, it has to be that.
And it also, because the production design, like the wardrobe stuff, for example,
it's all based on real Barbie dolls.
It also
like holy shit.
Because I don't want to give any more airtime to like the controversy angle of this because it's all generated. Like this movie is so like, I want to ask those dudes, like, do you know what like radical feminism actually is? This is just like kind of normal feminism, right? This is just like
hi, I would like rights, please. Can you like treat me like a human being?
If you're a dude and you can just like take a joke a little bit, like you're not going to bump on that at all. Right. So I think that so much of that angle is so.
It's also a comedy. It's not trying to be like
it's just a false
seminar.
It's a false narrative. The vast majority of people who saw this movie loved it.
Yeah.
A cinema score.
Yeah, it just works, and I think that's cool because the angle of how Greta and I guess Noah co-writing, how they stereotype dudes has like 3 different layers to it.
Oh,
Which is why, again,
that's like the secret weapon of
well,
this movie.
it's like I didn't know if the movie would work because their set of like cultural references and ideas of what makes like a bro, they're coming out of the 90s, early 2000s. Like Greta's
Dude.
idea of a bro is like probably a pop culture guy.
Matchbox 20.
But then,
Dude,
yeah,
oh my god.
unwell.
That was
Go.
no, you know what? That was my single biggest laugh. Is all the guys
Incredible.
playing Matchbox 20.
Push you.
I like had the worst flashbacks of my life, and it was like, fuck, I've done that. I've been that guy before. Oh no.
Ryan Gosling's impression,
His voice.
of Rob Thomas.
it like melted my face off how good that shit was.
Every micro expression that
Christ.
Ryan Gosling does in this movie obliterated.
Micro
I
and
know.
macro,
Well,
just
and it's
all
just-
of it. It's
I
so,
was
like,
done.
So that like era of reference worked in, for example, in like everything everywhere, but that move, like there's a big difference between the box office that got and what this got. And this, because again, it's so well directed and shot and edited, like even people who have no connection to that fucking song by they don't know who the fuck Matchbox 20 is. It still hits. But like that's what I was kind of concerned about. And one way they mitigated that, like that, the fact that their cultural reference point is old,
Yeah.
is it wasn't by trying to go new. They went to like 60s, like horses are cool for guys.
so
Horses
good.
are cool.
Horses are cool.
This movie has actually, I've done a full 180
On horses. Are you
That
a
was-
horse guy
I'm
now?
gonna replace all of these posters.
It was
with horse
just
posters.
that was a brilliant idea because that is like little kid brain, like what men like. You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
plays into like
I
when
become
you're,
adult.
like-
I become cowboy.
yeah, like it, and it also like it plays into like the
Brewski
culture
beer.
of Barbie and Ken. Like it's a very like classical idea, but that circumvents the fact that if they were really just
Yeah.
writing a movie for themselves, it would be full of
Yeah.
pavement references
Well,
and shit like that. You know
I
what I
love
mean?
the logic of this world, how they are actually dolls being played with, you know, and you have like the Kate McKinnon weird Barbie that's like the one that
She's
gets fucked with.
she's Angelica from Rugrats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that
Has
extends
someone
to,
done that? I'm sure someone's
to
done
the
that.
Kens. The Kens are just like, what if like a boy came into play and started like taking over the playtime and just started doing boy shit? Like that's what a boy would do.
The like third act post the "I'm Just Ken" song when he like breaks down talking to Barbie and he's just like, I didn't even want to be do patriarchy anymore. When I found out that it didn't really involve horses. So good.
Him going and seeing like the videos of like Ronald Reagan and Bill Clinton and Sylvester Stallone, and he's like, wow, this is amazing. And then he like goes to the library at school to check out books about trucks.
Trucks and horses. So good.
It's so good.
It's the
Bill
best,
Clinton was
man.
so funny. Like, what a funny thing to be in this movie. It's
Yeah.
Bill Clinton.
And then he immediately becomes like a men's rights activist where he's like, I would like a job now. Like, I'd like to speak to the doctor.
Yeah.
I want a clicky pen.
Yeah. Hey, just like so, like do men on this, and the guy's like, "Don't worry, you like kind of do. It's gotta be like keep it under wraps.
Yeah, chill the fuck out.
You can't say that out loud."
It's
That was
it's all
that's
great.
very
It's
well
all
done.
I don't know. It makes me laugh that it's become such a thing because it's just like
It's good.
the joke is that we run the real world.
Yeah.
Like, are
I'm
you
sorry,
are you
but that
fucking
is
mad
how it
about
is.
that?
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, are you mad that they're pointing it out?
Yeah.
This seems to be what it is,
Yeah.
to be honest. Anyway, it's just it's humor coming from multiple different layers. And I think that's always a good move. But one pitfall that I think like 90% of the versions of this movie make is making too modern references. Like too modern. The only
Getting too topical.
the only thing hyper modern about this movie is the correct piece to be hyper modern, which is the songs. The songs,
like Dua Lipa.
yeah, fucking Ice Spice. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like credits roll Ice Spice. That's what you throw in as modern because that will play. You know what I mean? That will hook kids. Like people will.
We're sure that kids are gonna be, our grandkids are gonna be listening to Ice Spice. I hope not.
Who the fuck? What the fuck? Grandkids? Fuck you. No, kids right now love Ice Spice.
I like the music, you know, Tame Impala.
No, I do. I think the it's like as far on like the scale of like pop song
Lizzo
album.
opening with Pink.
Yeah. Pretty good.
Who else is in? I mean, obviously the "I'm Just Ken" number, which is kind of the highlight of the movie. in a way.
Yeah,
to me.
that plays for a set of different, like that's like such a traditional musical number.
It's Mark Ronson, right?
But then yeah, when you get into the fact that like the soundtrack, even though this movie could be scored very traditionally because it's like
adventure
to
a new world.
Yeah, because like if they had like hit the 60s button too hard, they would have done that. But they're like, no, like this needs to be like visibly for young people in some way.
Well, I think the other big part that we haven't really touched on that much, obviously, because we're three dudes, is like there's a lot of very specific women cultural references here. I think the music is part of that. I feel like the song that she sings in the car is part of that. Like,
they're the fucking Indigo Girls, baby. Let's go.
There are very like, you can tell that Greta took this as an opportunity to be like, okay, I am going to zero in on a very specific demographic. I know. Well, the thing is, they're gonna love me for it.
Also, though, the Indigo Girls is like a super 90s fucking reference to make, and that makes me laugh that it's in this movie. It has no place, but she's like, yeah, but I'm still me.
Yeah.
I still have to put my shit in this.
Well, it's like the movie. It's an extension of the internal logic of the movie, where it's not just that the dolls being played with. It's Greta playing.
It's
with
Greta
Barbies.
is the America Ferrera character. Who this is her world that she created.
It's beautiful.
I love that. Like, I love how shamelessly millennial Greta is in some of her films. That like, she's like, NSYNC was the most important band to me whenever I was in high school.
The cornerstone of all of this is the big monologue that America Ferrera gives about like all the contradictions of what it's like to be a woman. And I think that is a direct extension of the themes of the movie, of why Barbie is both good and bad. You know, there's that scene early on where the daughter like tears Barbie apart and lays out all the reasons why Barbie is detrimental to society. But at the end of the day, this is a movie funded by Mattel. It is a Barbie movie. It is an extension of the brand, of the character. So it can't just be the deconstruction. It also has to be a celebration of it. And that's where those roads cross, is that monologue.
Yeah, like it, maybe she did give you body dysmorphia, but also she is girl. Like that's an oversimplification, but like she is still empowering women, and like the versions of Barbie since way before a lot of other culture caught up, Barbie was doing jobs.
Yeah.
That wasn't a thing that like, oh, you can have a doll that I mean, it's how the movie actually starts, where it's just like dolls were meant to like be mothers, and then you have baby doll that you have to practice.
That shit was so funny.
You have to practice being a mother on when you're like 5 years old.
That was a great opening sequence.
Unbelievable.
This movie, it's so well done. It's territory that is it's pulling from like a wide variety of precedent, but it's also so entirely unique. I loved it. I'm excited to watch it again.
Me too.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to rewatch it because I think there's so much meat on the bone here. Especially, I mean, the like feminist angle is like kind of if you're going like top down, that's like the top of the tip of the iceberg here. Is what this story is trying to say. Like, I think that so much more of the profound element of this movie is in this idea of purpose, this idea of like not just sentience, but like why do I exist in this world? I have been thinking about the line reading of Margot just looking at the old woman on the bus stop and just saying, "You're so beautiful," like on like a near daily basis, and it like almost gets me choked up.
That's a great moment.
It's so good. It's such a beautiful
and
moment.
That bitch is like, I know.
It's so good that I kind of wish that there was more of that in the movie. Like I wish that the movie leaned into that a little bit more. And I still love all the wacky, zany, crazy stuff that it does. But I kind of wonder what it would have been like if, maybe you sacrifice some of that and maybe lean into some of that.
You're right. I mean, it is
a little bit more.
It's cutting between like just vastly different shit a lot.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you're going to end up bumping because you're like, wow, I was really into that vibe. And now we're in a whole different vibe immediately afterwards.
But
like,
when the vibes are all good, then it's like, it's two different movies a little bit, but like, if you can intercut them together.
Let's cut like maybe 20% of Will Ferrell and like give that lady another scene at the end of the movie.
Wait, did you know who that is?
Yeah, she's a production designer, set designer.
No, she's the original designer. Barbara, the one who Barbie was named after. Like Barbie, Barbie, the creator of Barbie, her daughter.
That's not right.
That's what
I heard she was a
read
costume designer
online.
that worked on White Noise.
I don't think that's true. I know that.
Are you talking
or
about the same
maybe-
old lady? There are two old ladies.
Yeah, there's two old ladies. I think I'm thinking
one is playing the original Barbara, and then one is just some old lady that she looks at.
The
and
one
is
at the
like-
bus stop, I believe, is the actual costume designer.
Oh, is that the
one-
costume? The one that she meets like in the white room, basically.
That's that. She's just an actress that's playing. Her character, not the actress, the character is the creator of Barbie, like the person who made Barbie, essentially the god.
Yeah, I saw the movie.
Sure.
So Anne Roth is the costume designer. She's the lady.
Anne Roth, like a legendary costume designer. I thought no. I think we're talking about two different old women. I think in this, I'm getting my old woman mixed up. I apologize. I did just want to say before we move on from Barbie, I cannot wait to see what Greta does next.
Apparently
I had
Narnia
no. Well,
for
that was
Netflix.
so. I was just talking with friend of the pod Harry, who I think really liked this movie, but I don't think that he was as buzzing as I was off of seeing this, especially coming out of the theater. I was like, "Fuck, this might be a masterpiece." Jesus Christ, I think Greta did it again. I think that his take on it was Barbie, like it's a thing to make the next thing that she wants to make.
Sure.
And I disagree with that a little bit because I think Greta, much like Jordan Peele, who I think is like one of her contemporaries, wants to be Spielberg. I think that they don't want to just make indie quiet pieces. She doesn't want to make movies like Noah Baumbach does. She
Right.
wants to make $100-200 million movies, but make them her way.
That's true. It's just the ultimate question is, does she want to like be an auteur and like write like, does she want to do property stuff or does she want to?
Well,
write
scripts.
scripts?
I think that is the question. I've heard the Narnia thing that is apparently happening. She has like, she technically, her next credit is she has co-writing credits on a 2024 Snow White movie for Disney.
Oh, is that the one with Rachel Zegler?
Yes.
That's cool. Yeah, get paid, Queen.
I was
Let's
going to
go.
say that feels like we're going to bring Greta in there to spruce up the script a little bit than more than is a featured thing by
Yeah,
her.
it's like when they at the last second with Soul, there was controversy, so they added a black guy as like a co-writer. That was so
don't worry,
gross.
guys.
I
We're
hated that shit.
we're only days removed from the Barbenheimer thing, and we're gonna see what this is gonna do for Greta.
Yeah.
Like this is just the beginning. This is gonna be major.
Yeah.
Major.
Here's the
major.
thing. Like I'm actually I feel like I don't want to. I'm okay with her being in the IP space if she continues to make stuff like
It's
Barbie.
just that's
I think
the
like
thing is
we
if she's this good at it, then
we need
fuck.
somebody.
Exactly.
We need somebody in the IP space who is making good shit because like it's
this is more
it's
artistic than any fucking Marvel
the
movie.
tide raises all boats, like that kind of
Yeah.
whatever the fucking
It will
turn of phrase is.
it's a really good middle ground of like she has the feel and the perspective of an auteur, but if she's willing to fuck around with shit that already exists and like
Yeah.
put her flavor on it, like
Go for
I
it.
also
yeah, because otherwise they're just gonna pluck someone with no
Yeah.
individual or no. It's not even if they don't have vision; it's if they don't have the power to like imbue that.
Yeah.
Greta is a thing.
Yeah.
She is known now. Like she is like, oh yeah, this is Greta. This isn't gonna be Barbie. This is gonna be Greta Gerwig's like the way that she
Yeah.
does Barbie.
But I think that it is a situation where the more Barbies that you get, the more people don't have patience for fucking C-tier Marvel shit. Like
Yeah.
the more that people actually
that's
get,
why
the more people get picky for their big IP, big blockbuster movies. You need somebody in
Yeah.
here who's actually doing God's work, actually out here trying to give
That's
auteuristic vision to their properties that they're making.
that's why I feel bad for Mattel. Because
Like the Magic 8-Ball movie is just like, I guess we're gonna get like
Yeah.
Shane Black to make this.
So
I don't fucking know.
they just made
it worked
bank.
great for Predator.
They just made
Okay.
bank off of this. They're gonna try to roll out a whole bunch of fucking movies about all their IP, all their toys, and they're not gonna be Greta Gerwig movies. They're all gonna suck. You know? So it's just like you're setting the bar like so insanely high for
You
yourself.
know who's the original Barbie is Alicia Silverstone in Clueless.
Yes.
Clueless. Okay.
Man, if we make this movie 20 years ago, it's Alicia Silverstone.
Clueless
So-
is it's one of my favorite movies ever.
Yeah, I
I love Clueless.
I watched it fairly recently for the first time. That was like a big, huge blind spot for me. Like
think
it was
it's
about
like-
a few months ago.
I think
at
it's
this point.
like the best teen movie.
It's
like ever.
incredible. Afterwards, we watched Mean Girls, and I still stand by Mean Girls is incredible, but Mean Girls does lose a little bit
It's
of its
swimming in the
luster
wake of
after,
Clueless,
after
bro.
you watch Clueless.
Like Clueless is better.
Clueless is like one of the funniest scripts I've ever seen in my life.
It's fucking
so
phenomenal.
good.
I want
So-
to read the book it's based on. But anyway,
Speaking of Clueless, shout out to some fucking dumbass named Sean Fennessy that made a letterbox list called "Come on Barbie, Let's Go Party." He included Clueless in that list.
Is this just about like movies that have Barbie aesthetic, or what is this?
Just movies that are Barbie adjacent,
Give
that
the
are in
essence of
some
Barbie.
in some way related
Okay.
to Barbie. A couple key ones that he forgot that I wanted to shout out.
did he put life size in there?
Yes.
Okay.
I was happy.
Thank
to see
God. That would have been
Good.
embarrassing.
Yeah.
if
Shout out
he
to
didn't.
Tyra Banks.
Gotta.
Scooby Doo.
Yeah.
Scooby Doo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Popeye.
I
The Robin Williams Popeye movie.
Sure, the Robert Altman Popeye.
So
Toys. Come on.
I genuinely multiple times in this conversation I almost brought up toys and I was like, you know what? It doesn't. We talked about it fucking plenty.
No, because this is honestly, this is what happens if toys like had a soul. If you just didn't like suck the soul
If it was just
and
if
energy
it was
out
just
of that
good
movie.
in like in most ways, that movie just wasn't very good at all.
It was, but it's one of those things where it's like, can we have a do-over? Can we
Yeah.
just try this again with a better script and then see what comes of this?
And Blade Runner 2049 and AI artificial intelligence, which
I don't.
are both
What is
about
this list? Is this
real,
just like
they're both
what's-
about real boys.
I don't know what you're saying.
They become real boys.
So that's what the list is. Is just that? Is Toy Story or all the Toy Story movies? on there?
Popeye.
I added that one.
Oh,
No, what
I was
is-
telling you those are movies he forgot to put on the list.
Why is
Jesus.
Popeye about? Like, I don't understand your fucking list, Ernie. I don't know what you're getting at here.
because they're both maximalist like expressions of
it's both a
smaller medium.
So it's both about like sentience and like the toy metaphor, but
Yeah.
also about maximalist filmmaking.
I'm gonna say something. Popeye sucked. And we listen.
you
Robert Altman got dead in a ditch.
fucking
It sucked shit.
have you ever seen another Robert Altman movie? Or is that your only one? Because that's so
No,
funny. if
I
that's-
heard it was his opus.
That's your introduction
That's
to
all you
Robert.
need to know.
To like the guy who made Paul Thomas Anderson what he is just Popeye. He got
Yeah.
reduced to Popeye.
I just don't get it with this fucking guy.
I will never forget us watching Popeye together. And like 45 seconds in, I was like, we got to turn on subtitles. I can't understand a goddamn thing Robin's saying in this movie. I was like, all right.
Yeah. By the way, Ernie, props to you earlier for saying that looking at Robin never bothered you because it definitely bothered me at points.
In Popeye
He's
specifically.
like his face can be viscerally
no,
upsetting.
it's
at
mostly a
times.
bicentennial man where I was just
Okay.
like, get this guy the fuck off my
All right,
screen.
maybe not never.
This guy, I want to kill this person that I'm seeing on my screen.
He
All
didn't
right,
bother you in fucking Insomnia.
have you guys seen the cultural trying to reclaim insomnia
in the
because
wake
of Oppenheimer? Like,
Yeah.
if you like Oppenheimer,
We-
you'll love Insomnia.
we know.
Yeah.
I think it's good. It's better than Tenet.
All right, we're gonna get to that.
We're gonna get to our
I mean, that
Nolan
just comes
rankings.
down to if you want like a
wanna
mega
fight.
normal movie or you want something that's like really weird. But
well,
like,
if I like something
interesting.
that's like pretty good or like okay or something that's bad. And you know what? At the end of the day, I would rather have like McDonald's than like a block of moldy milk.
That's insane. You're being a hater. I respect the hustle because if you want to make it in this business, you have to just have zags every now
Listen.
and then.
Once upon a time,
You guys,
Here's the thing.
guys, I love Harry Styles.
Here's the thing.
But for this podcast,
Tenet sucks. Nick Young is the greatest Laker of all time.
Patrick Stump is starting in Christopher Nolan's next movie.
Okay, now I'm back in. I think Christopher might be my favorite director of all time now.
Once upon a time, there was a little
My buddy
boy
Patrick.
named Christopher. I am become death, destroyer of podcasts. We're talking Oppie, boys.
Okay.
do you guys think that
The Heimer portion of the pod is hit.
I've been sort of, it's weird that the podcasters union hasn't called for us to strike yet in solidarity, but we're making more money than ever. There's
Yeah.
nowhere to go but to us.
Yeah, it's crazy how like I definitely did call up Warner Brothers and I was like, I just want you guys to know, like, I'm available. And I would prefer for you to use my likeness and my likeness exclusively.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, Oppenheimer, the new Christopher Nolan movie. Kaboom. What do we think?
I think it's awesome. I'm gonna get in ahead of Hunter. I thought it was fucking phenomenal. Wasn't expecting a ton from it, to be honest with you, because
Yeah, the premise,
yeah, no, and also
historical drama,
it's just
3 hours.
Nolan was in a spot where he could go in a variety of directions because his peak mega blockbuster era is clearly over.
He kind of did all the things.
Yeah, and then he went and made Dunkirk, which has it's just like mostly a series of grunts. It's not dialogue at all.
And we love it.
I didn't understand a word anyone fucking said in Dunkirk.
And that's why it's good.
And yeah, it's almost like to its benefit.
I don't know.
say.
I think Dunkirk. I mean, it's great if people really hold it in such high esteem.
I'm people.
I like it. I like it when I know what people is saying and their characters with traits. That movie doesn't have that. I mean, you know what I mean?
Look,
like if you're cool with like a movie that's great in everything except no characters, then like that's a great movie. This movie, biopics are generally speaking, the average score that I would give biopics is low.
Like a 6 maybe.
Biopics are
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
And so like
You had some mean things to say about our favorite film, Darkest Hour, leaving the film.
Drew doesn't know what that is.
Yes,
you
I
were
do,
you were a
bitch.
big fan.
Darkest Hour. The thing is, that's like a pretty.
saw that?
Mank
Yes.
played
Oh,
Prime
shit.
Minister Mank.
No, and I didn't even say bad. Darkest Hour is a pretty good movie, and in terms of biopics, it's way up there.
Yeah, it's like a
because
7.
biopics suck.
Yeah.
They are not good. They are
Right.
they're adapting
Well, Robert Oppenheimer has to think about his whole life before he walks into this hearing.
facts.
So,
Um,
and he has to think about how his dad beat him, so he wanted to invent
So,
the atomic
it's
bomb.
just there were multiple times
The wrong
during
bomb died.
there were multiple times during this movie where I was like, biopics are not
this could have gone like so wrong.
because
Yeah.
biopics fucking blow.
Yeah.
They like name two. What biopics are better? JFK is not better. People were wanting to say that.
Lincoln.
I don't know about
Spielberg's
that.
Lincoln.
No,
I don't know. Well, I mean, I'm not the biggest Oliver Stone
I'm
fan.
not saying
either,
it's
but I
better
don't
than
know.
that's what I'm
Oppenheimer.
saying.
But-
It's not better, man. Watch it. Name a scene in JFK.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
I've seen
for
JFK
sure.
3 times. I can't name a scene in it.
I've never seen
It has a general good vibe as a movie. Like it is a good movie.
I mean,
It is. It doesn't have anything that
Well-
like withstood time as like memorable.
so it depends on what you are defining as a biopic, because I don't think that
A
this is a
historical
traditional.
figure.
Yeah, because Social Network is a biopic.
Yeah.
Social Network is a fucking masterpiece.
Well, yeah,
compared-
that's
especially compared to
that's
this.
the
Like,
only
it's-
that's the only
People have been
very-
comparing this
I was
movie
gonna
to
say,
Social Network.
well, it's the only very comparable movie that I would say is definitely better. Like there are just not many. But I pulled up a list, 20 best biopic movies of the 21st century. They fucking suck, man. What do you want to put Dallas Buyers Club over this? It was fucking horrific, man. And then you get into all the musical ones. Everything positive that I said about Rocket Man was because I had just seen Bohemian Rhapsody. In retrospect, you couldn't pay me to watch that movie.
right in
again.
comparison to it.
This is not a great genre in terms of batting
Well,
average.
the best biopics are the ones that sort of play around with the formula. This is a movie that plays a lot with the formula. We'll get into all the specifics, but I mean, one that comes to mind is the Bob Dylan biopic, I'm Not There, that casts like
That's a one
half
that's
a
playing around
dozen
with the-
different actors. But even that movie still stays in that mid like 6, 7, 8 range. Wolf of Wall Street, I think, is one.
Wolf of Wall Street.
That's another one that another of the. I mean, Social Network and Wolf of Wall Street are the only recent
Yeah, like
examples
the
that I
top
would say are
shelf.
definitively better.
I think that's I think it's almost easier for something like Wolf of Wall Street because people don't know who Jordan Belfort is. Like the average man does not.
That's
it's
true.
like Catch Me If You Can is technically a biopic.
Right.
Yeah, but it's not.
But nobody knows that story. Nobody knows that
Also-
real life story. 12 Years a Slave is a biopic, but nobody
also
knows that fucking
with,
story. The
Catch Me If You
Pianist.
Can, the entire story of Frank Abagnale has been called into question in the last couple of years. Like that movie is based on stories that are not true.
Yeah, well, there's that too. But I mean, even if you're looking at something like The Pianist or something like that,
Yeah.
which Pianist is like a fucking masterpiece of the early 2000s, but that is a movie that is based off of a story that no one really knows.
Yeah,
it has the backbone of IP, that of historical context that you can draw from, that you can use the beat by beat for. People know the name Robert Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Well, at least like people know I Am Death,
extent.
Destroyer of Worlds. People know the guy who built the atomic bomb.
Lydia Tarr?
Everybody knows Lydia Tarr.
Yeah.
Lydia Tarr.
And you know who else people know is Peaky Blinders.
Peaky.
And I think that I don't want to say I think that there's a certain percent of the success of this movie is because I think we're all underestimating the amount of fucking people who have seen Peaky Blinders.
The Facebook memes.
And that Christopher Nolan had the absolute vision to say, if we put him in that hat again, people are not going to. They're not going to know it's something different.
But we'll convince people that this time he's Jewish and not Irish. That's the biggest hurdle that he had to overcome.
He genuinely, this is diversity casting.
The most Irish fucking dude alive, Cillian Murphy. It's just
I want to talk about Cillian. I'll just get it out of the way right up top. I'm going to give a very, very controversial hot take opinion.
I don't think it's...
I think Christopher Nolan is a good director and he makes good movies. And I like them.
Okay. All right. If that's your take.
I'm sorry if I'm out here just, in hot take island over here, but the dude can do the job that he does well.
I mean, there are certain things that are not like you just sort of can't call into question. For example, like his shot selection, composition, a lot of his editing, which the last Tenet and this one were both directed by the same woman. I don't remember if someone can pull up her name.
The editor,
Jamie, pull that up. Yeah, because editing these two movies is a fucking headache. Like she must have had a fucking time. But like anything.
This one in particular.
The technical elements of his movies are unimpeachable. Mm-hmm. And this one in particular is going to...
Jennifer Lane.
Like the general look, aesthetic, and vibe of this movie are going to age incredibly well. There's not a visual...
It's already happening.
There's not a visual that's going to look bad in 10 years.
Yeah.
Where we're going to be like, oh, wow, I can see what he did there.
That's our boy Hoyten von Hoytenmeyer.
It looks fucking... It looks insanely fucking good.
I've seen this movie twice. Second time, big boy IMAX, full size at the big Regal point. Movie hits different in IMAX. We saw it the first time at the 70 millimeter screening that we went to, which looked amazing. Love that film texture, but I'm not gonna fucking be a fucking 5-head cinema film bro over here and be like, oh, you have to see the movie on fucking film. Look, not everyone's going to be able to see this movie on film. It looks beautiful. It looks gorgeous. It was shot on film. It's going to look great.
If you can't see it on film, you don't deserve to. You're probably poor.
Yeah.
The IMAX.
Oh, you can't afford to fly to one of the 22 70 millimeter IMAX screenings in the country? Oh, bitch.
The IMAX experience, I saw it digital, did not see it IMAX film because that's not an option
exist
in Orlando. I'm not going to go as far as to say it's a different movie. It is a fundamentally different way of experiencing this movie. The way he uses IMAX in this movie, the verticality of it, this movie is a lot of small rooms. There's not a lot of wide open vistas, although I do think I saw Ken riding a horse there in the New Mexico desert.
Oh, God. Someone check on Ken.
He was in that one scene. You see his face like peeling off.
Yeah,
it's actually Ken right there.
It's so immersive, and the IMAX sound, the Trinity bomb sequence, it shook the fucking theater. Like my seat was rattling in that bitch.
Yeah, and it also, that's where anything that you would call like genuinely inspired comes from Nolan is in technical stuff. Like that's where, like, you know what I mean? Like my man's a Spectrum king.
Yeah.
He knows how to get.
He's a nerd.
He gets inspired moments out of sound design. It's stuff like that, and it's sort of incomparable to me. There aren't a ton of people who can do it like he does. There are a couple key moments which we'll loop back to later, but like when things get like scary in this movie, I think it's like immense. I want to see him direct a horror movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, this is pretty close
When
to
things
it.
get uncomfortable, because so much of it is just sound design based. Like it's just
Yes.
all like the stomping and then the cutting sound out. And there's one point where like all of the sound cuts out except for what sounds like one child's scream. And it doesn't even really have, it's not like the audience is like, oh, I bet that's that one kid screaming.
It's just coming from.
It's just a sound
Yeah.
thing. It's just like he knew that would be the most visceral sound.
Yeah.
And it plays.
He goes hard.
On top of it, I mean, the thing that comes down to extreme subjectivity is his writing, which there are a lot of varieties of overwriting. Hunter, if you want to say your little
no. Finish your thing before I'm letting you speak.
Okay.
I'm waiting. I'm doing the thing where wait your turn.
Great. So my opponent might bring up a comparison to
my opponent. You automatically just assume my position on this.
My opponent might bring up
idea.
a comparison that he has posted in group chats to Aaron Sorkin movies. I would call that an extremely short-sighted comparison because that implies the idea that Aaron Sorkin invented writing plays. This is just like play language.
Yeah.
This is how people talk.
Non-stop
If you
dialogue.
watch, there are Shakespeare plays that have like the tone and tenor of this where like and I've fallen into that trap before a lot with Sorkin in particular, where like, because he bothers me because he tries to imbue ideals into every character that he holds, whereas Sorkin like doesn't really have enough ideals to like put into characters. Obviously that you're gonna come down on one side or another. If you're making a movie about nuclear bombs, you can't be apolitical, and like in fact being apolitical comes across as political. But
well, I want to get into that later because I think that this movie, there is a gray area to that.
He is able, in this movie especially, I think that he found a really, really great middle ground of writing shit that is delivered well.
Yeah.
Because he has had movies before where it has the same like insane rot style of writing and characters feel extremely mechanical. This is a movie, first of all, about really mechanical guys. Yeah. So that works.
Physicists.
The performances are easily able to overcome that because this to me feels way more like a play than anything he's ever put on film before. Like it feels like you're watching a play most of the movie.
This might be his best script.
If you watch it in the context of theater, it just makes more sense. And that's probably the case with the Sorkin stuff that I've criticized too much before, where it's like, yeah, but if you think of it as like he's just a playwright, then like all of this overdoing it is just, that's just what plays are, bro. Yeah. Like I don't know what to tell you.
You need a certain entertainment value to it.
Yeah, like over rottenness, like that. There's heightenedness in normal movie scripts that come out as just like bad lines, and then there's a heightenedness in theater that comes across as like someone really feeling themselves while they're writing. And like, if you've ever seen like a fucking like Tennessee Williams play, there are lines where you're like, Jesus fucking Christ, and that's that's someone that's known as like one of the greatest playwrights ever. So it just, if you view it through that lens, this movie came across to me as one of the best biopics ever.
Oh, easily. That's a low bar, though. I think it's so much more than
you guys
that.
are so dismissive of the biopic genre as like one of the great genres
name
that we
names.
have.
What do you got?
I named a bunch of them. Wolf of Wall Street, Catch Me If You Can.
I know, and then you immediately were like, those are dudes that no one knows.
I'm just saying that it's hard
you know
to
what I mean?
do, but I think whenever you're doing them right, it's unbelievable.
But no, so a biopic about a dude that people know where you have to sort of honor a lot of
I mean, I think
shit.
JFK is the easiest comparison and is
I know, so that's
the junior.
So
the
people
junior
are making that one. I disagree. I watched it for the second time, I think last year, and I was like, this is definitely really good, but it's like it's good in like a TNT way. It's a great movie. It's just like, name a scene. What's the scene in JFK?
So
you can't name one. You can name fucking scenes in Oppenheimer.
Lots of scenes.
So
all right, come on.
People have been waiting for this. People have been messaging me like, oh my God. As the one person who sees through fucking Christopher Nolan's bullshit, Hunter, we need you to be the voice.
Hunter, there are 5 auteurs. Can we take down one of them for God's sake?
Yeah.
Can we talk shit about one of the 5 people who gets to make whatever they want?
Here's the thing, guys. I've now seen this movie twice. I know that you guys have all been waiting to know what my opinion is on this.
Oh, boy.
I mean, I know what it was after we saw it the first time.
It's fine.
We talked about it.
It's a fine movie. No, I think that this movie is pretty undeniable, and I think this movie is. Yeah, I think this movie is
okay,
great.
that's
I think that this movie is great. I think that there is a lot of. This movie is both the best of Nolan and the worst of Nolan at the same time.
like all his movies.
But
you
I
know?
think that this especially, whenever the first time I watched this, it rubbed me the wrong way. Because I think that this movie, like...
our heads were kind of spinning out of the theater a little bit.
I think that this movie, there is a version of this story where I think that it is a masterpiece. I think this movie has the potential to be like a 10 out of 10 all-timer. And I think that there is some Nolan pitfalls that he just can't get out of his own fucking way with some things.
You can say that same thing about like all of his movies.
And that's one of the reasons why he's not an all-time director for me, is because I think that like we're gonna talk about the Emily Blunt everything that she's doing. She's in the last few days, people are just like, she's the front runner for supporting actress, which is
that's crazy,
fucking laughable to me. If that happens, I will lose my goddamn mind.
She'll get the nom. If this movie gets like 12 noms, she'll be in there.
She shouldn't get the nomination. What
she's
does
a
she
talented
do?
actress.
Yeah, she's good in a movie that gives her absolutely dog shit
it's
to do.
like she's playing if this movie had come out in the 90s, she would probably win.
I think that
because this was like in the 90s, this would pass as like feminism.
No, we'll get to it. Her big scene that she has is so bad. It's terrible.
No, I like that
She
scene.
ponies him with grammar.
I think her as a character, I don't blame Emily Blunt. We're gonna talk about Rami Malek, who I think is bad. I think he's like straight up, his revelation in this movie is the most fucking cornball Hallmark bullshit that I've ever seen in my entire life. Both those things are in the third act of this movie, which is where I have my most criticisms.
Yeah.
I think the first 2 hours of this movie are borderline perfect.
It's crazy.
I think that there are definitely a lot of there's a too many guys problem. Hold on. It's a thing that,
just so you know, I want to rank the guys.
Oh, okay. I'm down to do that, because especially after seeing this a second time, the problem is with this movie. In the first two acts, you're at least seeing guys, so you're like, oh, that's Josh Hartnett. Oh, that's Josh Peck. Oh, that's Benny Safdie. And you at least see the characters, the actors to play them. But whenever you just see them in the third act, and Robert Downey Jr. is just like, Nichols was betrayed by Tenor, but Bortles over here was on this with the
Nichols was on the sideline.
And I was like, I don't know what you're fucking saying here, dude. And the way that this is edited, Jennifer Lame, it is edited with such a frenetic pace, and I understand the purpose of it because it's pretty breakneck speeds for like
there's
2
a reason.
straight hours.
Yeah.
I understand the purpose of it, but it did reach a point of exhaustion, and I think that is also kind of the purpose, but I can't be exhausted for 3 hours. Like, I need moments of reprieve within the breakneck pacing. So with that being said, I do think that there's some really, really key critical flaws in this movie, but I think that I have said before, even in my Nolan criticisms, that I think that he's like one of the great craftsmen of our time. And I think that this is a movie that brings out that best side of him.
Yeah.
That it's all about not just the production design, not just the way that it looks, the way that it feels while you're in it, but the actual story of being a craftsman. What it is like to create something, to make this your baby, to put your all into this, and then to have it taken away from you. Because
burdened with genius.
Once you put it out which is annoying, but once you put all of this effort and all of this energy and emotional and intelligent energy out into the world, you have no idea what the world is going to do with what you've created. That is incredible. And that is so interesting and so well realized. My biggest problem with this movie is that we leave that idea for a different movie in the third act. And this movie transitions becoming something else. And especially on the first viewing, that is why I butted my head up against the most, because while I think Robert Downey Jr. is unbelievably good in this movie, it transitions into not a movie about Oppenheimer dealing with the consequences of his actions, but into a movie about the machine of bureaucracy, which is interesting, but doesn't feel like the biggest, most important thing that we were building up to throughout this.
Yeah, and it's there are a few things going on there because
That and the Sorkin criticism comes from the third act, from the Robert Downey Jr. scenes.
Yeah.
It's not throughout the entire thing.
The Alden
That's-
Ehrenreich character, he's basically like a Sorkin
yeah,
character.
it's
By
the
the way-
guy who's saying they're like, and then what happened? But what did Oppie think of that?
I'll say in terms of like guy playing that role, I really liked him. I think Alden is good.
and Solo is a good movie.
because shut up. He's
Oh,
even
okay. All
thing
right.
is-
Okay.
Cocaine
Calm
Bear
it down, bud.
is like fucking awful. And in that movie, I was like, hey, maybe there's something in that Alden kid. He's not that bad.
Right.
It's not his fault.
Yeah.
You can't.
He's good in
cast fucking-
what was the Cohen Hail Caesar?
Yep.
Because
he's good in that.
he's playing like us in the movie.
Yeah.
In Oppenheimer. Like
Yeah.
he's playing the person hearing the story. I think that I think the reason that Nolan chose to go with this Max Strauss shit.
Lewis.
Louis Strauss.
Who the fuck is Max?
Max Strauss is
I don't know. I think you just made that up.
no. Max Strauss is definitely a person.
Max
he's a-
Strauss
Max Strauss
is the
who
player
you're
for the
thinking
Heat.
of. That's
Yeah.
what you're thinking of.
Okay.
No, but you're right. They are linked. It doesn't click for me, at least. It doesn't click until the second viewing. The first viewing, you're sitting there like, who the fuck is
No,
this
let
guy?
me tell you why. Let me tell you why Nolan is fixated on that element of it is because he is so obsessed with who gets to tell the stories of history. Like he proves it throughout this entire movie. And in his eyes, which again, he doesn't know what your normal person is, but I guarantee you that like in his eyes, the reason that we all don't love Oppenheimer is just because of this fucking Max Strauss
Yeah.
shit. Or this Louis Strauss shit. Like,
Max
and that is,
Strauss-
I think that's a whole
Fucking-
conversation
well,
about
no.
how Nolan feels about Oppie.
it's just, and because like the narrative of Oppie was genuinely permanently changed by all of that shit. And it
Do you think
mattered.
Nolan is pro Oppie.
And it just, that mattered a lot more in like the 50s and 60s. And if you were writing a book about Oppenheimer, you would be like, yeah, no, his life got
It's the
ruined.
narrative that took
Yeah.
over.
His whole life
Yeah.
got ruined because of this. This
Yeah.
is why he is not thought of in a different way.
Well, the McCarthy,
So-
I think he was like one of the key kind of figures in the McCarthy
anyone,
era.
anyone in the McCarthy era
Yeah.
like is buried. Like there's a reason he's not talked about a little bit more in textbooks when you're a kid even.
Yeah.
I read up on him a lot because I did a project. I did like my science fair about nuclear weapons or my
Nice.
history fair.
You're
my
a
science
real-
fair would have
a real
been
cool kid right
Oppie.
there.
my science fair would have been
You
building a
built
nuke.
yeah, it was you just like lugging in plutonium every day in marbles in the classroom. They're like, we're getting
That's
Drew's getting
epic.
closer.
But yeah, I was doomed to be a sucker for this movie because I read a lot about Oppie in middle school,
Nice.
and I thought he was very
You knew
fascinating.
he was cool before.
You're
That's
like
cool.
you're a womanizer, a gallivant, a debutante.
It is genuinely like the way that people talk about him that knew him. It's like he was a protagonist. You know what I mean? He was a guy that you would.
He was a
make-
lad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
He was a Peaky Blinders.
and the reason that this movie stands above the vast majority of Nolan movies for me is because, like I said, there are performances in this movie that stick out just as much as the directing. And Cillian, what do we want?
Killian.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
It
he's
is crazy how
Yeah.
good he is.
unbelievable.
Hold on. I don't want to get too far away from what you're getting at here, which is how the Oppie plot is related to the Strauss plot. Because the way I see it is, on first view, I was very confused. This movie, like you said, it's disorienting. I think that's intentional.
I know. I think had we gotten to that first screening on time, I think we genuinely would have.
I don't know what you're talking about. That I
we
have
missed-
no idea.
we missed
We didn't
some-
know that it was fusion and fission.
Well,
Right.
also it was much
That
like
would have made everything make
no,
sense.
it's just like
then.
much like that one planet in Interstellar. Like every 5 minutes in the first act of Oppenheimer that you miss is
Well,
like a year.
It's like 27 scenes with the way that it's all fucking cut together.
So we were like,
Um,
what the fuck is this? Like, how
Yeah.
is this movie edited right now?
I still have complaints about
Oh,
the
I
editing.
know, I
is
agree, but
fucking
it's just
deranged for the
second-
first 20 minutes.
But
of this
second
movie.
time, I was like, oh, starting from the actual beginning, it makes more fucking
Well,
sense.
the first shot of the movie is the water, the rain hitting the water, which is not only like mirrored at the end with his vision of the nukes hitting the earth, but it's this idea that he is haunted by these visions of this subatomic world. And
this quantum realm.
Yeah. And you can,
He has this like, I don't know what to say, a quantum mania.
yeah. you can draw. That was good. You can draw a direct line from that to the Trinity test. And there is this inevitable collision course between young Oppie obsessing over these ideas to the detonation of the first nuclear bomb. And it's like he is so fixated on that he can't see anything else. And it's the same. What Nolan does is he takes that concept of his scientific work, and there's obviously all these other things, World War II, yada, 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 all these things around it. But at the core, it's this man who cannot stop thinking about his scientific work, getting to the culmination of that work. He can't stop thinking about it. It's the same. Nolan mirrors that with Strauss fixated on this fucking hearing where he gets humiliated.
Well, not even
and this
before that,
conversation with Albert Einstein where he thinks they're talking
Here's
about
the
him.
thing. Let me tell you.
It's the same thing. Nolan is juxtaposing the two things next to each other, the two character arcs.
If I can quote the great Fall Out Boy, do you laugh about me when I'm not here, or do I just need more therapy? Maybe Louis Strauss should listen to So Much for Stardust before
It's just
that happened. I think that this goes back to one of my biggest criticisms about this movie, which this movie, I think, without actually reading the source text, this movie is way too interested with trying to be like a page for page recreation of the book American Prometheus, where let's say a more adept screenwriter might have said, hey, let's combine 4 of these characters into one role. So when somebody like Rami Malek shows up at the end, you're like, that fucking nerd who's just like scribbling on a piece of paper in the back of the scene is now going to become. So it's a thing where it doesn't really make sense.
Too many guys.
Where it's too many guys. And I think that Ernie, you're right that is the parallel that Nolan's going for, but I don't think it comes across fully because the first 2/3 of this movie is so much more interested
the balance
in
is off.
the process.
Sure.
And you just have RDJ just being like a narrator character, and you're like, oh, this is what his purpose is just to be like the explainer of what's happening, which is another problem. The first time you're watching it, you're like, can I just watch the movie? Why are we flashing back to this guy?
I agree, but I don't there's definitely you're correct that there's a platonic ideal to be found here that isn't this in terms of simplifying a little more. But I think the vast majority of the time what you have is oversimplification in movies like this. You know what I mean? Where
Dumbed down shit,
it's not just 4 non-important characters being combined. It's 10 guys being put into one who's just a main character. It's too much. And so
but there are writers that can do that.
I know. Well, there definitely are, but
Craig
Mazin
in Chernobyl.
Yes, exactly. That is the perfect idea of this, where we can take 5 great scientists and combine them into one person. That's what you should have done, instead of just being like, man, I know that Rami Malek didn't just come in this movie to have one line and then stand there and just be a bumbling dolt in the background.
I have patience for that, just because oversimplification is it's so common in movies like this, and we don't notice because we don't know how many characters. Every single story has way more characters than are in the movie, except for this one, because there are just as many fucking dudes.
Because my boy Nolan,
can't not.
He's not a fan of editing.
Guys.
He's not a fan of
some guys.
He's like, what am I gonna do? Cut Gene Tatlock from this? Or what am I gonna do? Cut out a Hakon Chevalier?
I mean that scene where they're sitting around talking about when it's hey, this is the Manhattan Project. They might as well just be like, I'm Ken. Hey, Ken.
Yeah.
It's just
Ken.
It's oh man, I'm Louis Walter Alvarez. He's like, I got to keep him. And who can we get in here? Oh yeah, of course, Alex Wolff. You'll definitely think that he'll play a bigger role and not just be in the background of a scene.
Here's the thing though. Another movie that does that I think undersimplifies, but is not half as successful is The Post. Think about The Post.
Yeah.
Josh Singer, I think, wrote that. He was extremely fixated on the actual story,
Right.
of what happened. He made a character and had a big actor to play every single person, and that movie is not that good.
It's mid.
Well,
It's
because it's
So Ready Player One, which came out the same year.
they could have combined all the Gundams in
What
one
if
guy.
What if they combined? What if they're Steven's like, can we make Ready Player One the Post one story? Can we combine these?
It's just
consolidate.
There are versions of this that do make the same mistake, and they're all worse because
Right.
because this movie does have too many fucking guys in it. It's hilarious. Like, it's funny to watch because you're watching
I had
it like,
fun
what are you even doing here,
Every
bro?
scene, I'm like, all right, who's
I
the
know.
next guy?
The thing is,
And he obscures it, like Casey Affleck. Like, you don't see his face.
Oh.
you know, he has fun with it.
Casey's
great.
one though. That,
Don't
like,
guy-
Don't fucking cut Casey from this
What
movie.
guy is this guy gonna
I know.
be?
Casey is awesome.
Yeah.
It's like
It's almost
Hannibal Lecter coming in and Silence
It's
of the
almost like they're
Lambs.
playing on like him in real life, possibly being a terrifying human being
just-
to be around.
It comes naturally to him, you know. But so the thing is, despite the fact that he's playing with like 50 dudes for no reason, this movie focuses in on people enough to give them great performances. I mean, first and foremost, this is a movie about one guy.
Oppie.
It's a movie about some guys, but it's about one guy.
Yeah.
Oppie. Killian, phenomenal.
Which
But
I love that Killian has always been a guy, and now he's not just a guy. He's
That's
Oppie.
true.
Like, everyone is coming together. It's
10 years ago, he's playing a different part in this
Right.
movie. He's not Oppie.
and now it's like that
I know.
meme where all of the like Avengers are bowing for the nurse
yeah.
in the hallway.
Jesus
It's all the
fucking
guys
Christ.
like bowing for Oppie.
It is.
That's what
it's
we
just-
needed. That
It rocks. He is giving a performance that is so calibrated. I couldn't even
It's
was-
an all-timer.
because I've never disliked him in anything, but it's just one of those things where it's like, all right, let's see if you can do it. Let's see if you can fucking go.
can
man.
you be a leading man in a movie?
Can you? Yeah, and not just a leading man in the vein of 28 Days Later, where he's sort of playing the brick wall, where like shit's happening to him and he's reacting.
Right.
This is a guy who is generating personality and energy.
Mhm.
yeah.
And I was mind boggled by how good he was. This
Incredible.
is
It
this is
is-
the best actor performance. And
He's kind of got it locked
and
up.
we genuinely
honestly.
need to bring up the fact that like best actor performances are not in Chris Nolan movies.
Oh no,
Absolutely. Chris Nolan historically does not make movies for actors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the only
The
one.
most thing is like you're like, oh, it's something like Robert Pattinson was really fun in Tenet.
Yeah, you'll
It's
just
somebody who's like, man, they're having a great time.
yeah,
here.
you'll
It's
just
a lot of
you'll
fun
be
while
like,
you're
yeah,
watching
Leo
it.
was awesome in Inception,
then-
but like he's not playing like a
And then
Matthew
there's Heath Ledger,
McConaughey,
but
Matthew
it's-
McConaughey in Interstellar. That is probably Matthew McConaughey's best performance. Just putting that out there.
He is good.
He should have, when he won for Dallas Buyers Club, it was
He
actually
should have
for
credited.
Interstellar.
Well,
Just saying.
he shouldn't have won for Dallas Buyers Club because that movie should burn off the face of the earth.
Just saying.
But
Just saying.
better than fucking Jared Leto winning for Dallas Buyers Club.
brother,
Oh.
what a fucking year that was. I think that was when Birdman won Best Picture 2014, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
What a year. So
Man, wild.
it's just like these movies do not carve, like his movies historically have not carved out space for performances like this. And I think despite the fact that he held on to so many of his classic like issues, like his classic Nolanisms, like it's all going to be way too much. There's going to be too much story going
Jumping
on.
around
Yeah,
in time.
it's
The
gonna
time jumps.
it's gonna be a 4-hour movie in 3 hours. You know what I mean? That said, Killian gets to absolutely fucking cook in this movie. We retain so much focus on him even as we jump around, which is something that, like, frankly, even though Barbie is like a masterpiece for different reasons, like I was almost wanting a true protagonist in that movie, because it's just like
in Barbie or in this?
in Barbie,
Okay.
because you're splitting a lot of screen time, and every time Margot was like really acting in that movie, I was like, damn. But that said, that movie is like a silly comedy movie. Like it's not made to like convey like the historical story of one figure. You know what I mean? It's a whole different ballgame. What I'm saying though, it's not just Killian that gets to cook in this movie. It's Matty D.
Let's
No,
go.
it's
I was
fucking
ready.
Matty.
I was ready for
It's
this.
who is-
fucking Matt
to be
Damon.
honest,
The
he is
moment he
in-
steps onto the fucking screen, I
Guys.
could feel the theater just lean
Let me
in.
tell you, the year of 2023 and the year of our Lord, where Matt Damon has reached this like new era of like I'm now the old man here to like give you whippersnapper or something and tell you what's
He's
up.
so good in
Matt-
this.
Michael Jordan
Matt-
matters and Robert Oppenheimer matters.
Matt
And
fucking Damon.
Yeah.
he's the best.
Oh!
He's so good. in
My
this.
God,
This
he's good.
shoe is the most important shoe in the history of the world.
He is just.
It's-
He is like I can't name a time where I've been like Matt. You know, Matt could have done a lot better in this movie. He's in bad movies.
We bought a zoo.
He bombed a zoo.
That movie sucked. Was that movie gonna be
Well,
good?
to be fair, he was at like peak alcoholism when We Bought a Zoo was happening, and you can see
they gave him that hair. It was doomed. That
He's-
hair.
that movie about like fracking that he was in around the
Oh,
same
yeah.
time. That was a rough
Still
one.
Listen.
water. No, wait, that's something
Nope,
else.
that
I'm just
Stillwater
saying-
came out like last year.
I like.
He's really fucking good in this movie.
Yeah,
He
he's
is-
great. He's
he's
in a different
unreal.
movie and it works.
Well,
'Cause
you
he
need
has
it.
connection with.
It would be so dry.
He makes Killian funny,
And
like
they-
he has scenes where they bring the best out of each other.
and they should have kissed. Come
They
on.
should give each other-
Let's be honest.
Here's the thing:
No.
in real life,
Killian's like the chiseled jaw like alpha male.
But here's
like
the thing.
Sigma grind.
In real life, Maddie's looking at Killian saying, "Hey, so you're saying there's a chance that whenever we set this thing off, the world's gonna end."
There's
you
a
know.
chance.
Also-
that-
also,
What if we-
I've
what
never
if we
kissed. I've never
kiss
kissed a man before.
under the mushroom
What if we kiss? What if we held hands under the
there-
mushroom
yeah,
cloud?
there's a-
Woo.
there's a non-zero chance that like this explodes the universe. So like,
It's an ad zero.
if there's anything
You
that
were,
you've like
full
been meaning to
sympathy.
say, like you should probably do it now. It's just
I
And then
Also-
Killian's like full autism mode, like just
I know.
looking at the rain.
also I disagree with your analysis of Killian. I wouldn't say alpha. I would say closer to Sigma. But like if you put lipstick on that boy, that's a fine ass femboy.
Damn.
He's a very
He-
quantum being.
They them cleaning up.
He's pretty.
He's a quantum being. He exists in multitudes.
he is
He's
yeah.
not just one thing.
He is super pretty. You know what I mean? Like he could bottom so easily.
Here's the thing. I hard disagree with you right now. Like I hard disagree
Put
with you. on
eyeliner
Killian.
on Killian Murphy, and what do you got?
sex.
My wife.
His eyes are too big yet also too sunken.
dude,
It's a thing where like
his
it's
eyes
Okay,
on IMAX.
So he's guess who he
Too
is
much.
then? He's Rebecca Ferguson. He's Ernie's mommy.
I was gonna say
eyes
that
too-
you're coming for
yeah,
Ernie right now.
eyes too
right?
big, too sunken.
My brain just
That's
broke.
called a hot Irish person, bro. I don't know what to tell you. It's
Sorry
just-
to my ancestors right now.
yeah.
but,
So Damon's incredible. I
no.
watched. Last night I watched for the first time ever. Bourne movie, the first Bourne movie.
the Born Identity rocks.
It's
It's
wow.
it's a classic.
What a different world that was.
Man.
it owns it's
that feels like a different
a
Tony
world
Scott.
in which Matt Damon and drum and bass music are coexisting.
Yeah.
Is so cool.
Yeah.
That movie rocks. It's also just indicative of such a different time in Matt's life because I think like 2 years after the first Bourne movie, he kind of no longer seemed like he should be an action star. And there are
Yeah.
other Bourne movies
they,
where
they
he's
caught
great
him at
and
the,
he gets in
at the
shape.
right.
But
yeah.
like he sort of, I think he aged faster than he wanted to. You know what I mean?
as we do.
Because he was Mr. Cutie Patootie in the 90s. He was like a Leo type looking like, you know, like apple cheek cherub boy. And then yeah, the Bourne movies come and it's a transition. And then in this movie, like this and Air combined, bro's just like a good old guy
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, he's in a new gear.
Bro's
He's reaching this next phase of his career, and I can't fucking wait. It's
He-
so much fun.
He delivered. Yeah, there wasn't a line that he missed on like getting the
he
reaction.
gets laughs.
He gets
big laughs.
He
from
gets
the
most
theater.
of the laughs in the movie.
Probably all of them
are
honestly.
him. Yeah, he's really fucking funny. On top of that, yeah, he has he's
Yeah.
delivering an amount of heart that it reminds me almost of Ving Rhames in the fucking Mission Impossible.
You're
movie.
playing
really
fourth
is, yeah.
dimensional chess. With
It's
the,
like we
fourth
need like
dimensional chess with a mushroom cloud.
it's just like we need like a
Yeah.
normal guy to like be talking to these
but we
freaks.
do. That's the thing
Yeah.
is Nolan understands that that's exactly what we need.
and you need him to get dunked on sometimes
Yeah.
by these scientists. Like the whole scene with Josh Hartnett, where he's coming in there, he's just like, I understand compartmentalization is key. And he walks in, he's just like, I said I understood, didn't say I agree with it, and just like immediately tells them everything. Like,
which like
you kind of need to get owned a
I
little
was
bit.
talking to some of the people that I saw this movie with it when I saw the IMAX screening, and there were some different interpretations of like the spy subplot and like whether or not that was real or made up, because like my take on that is that these scientist types operate different from the military types, right? So Damon is kind of in his own world fighting this war, and these scientists are not, a lot of these scientists see themselves above politics and military types, and they communicate with each other as scientists no matter the lines that are drawn between them.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like some of the spy stuff is
that's kind of what it comes down to, is it's not so much spying as it is just giving intel to another country.
because they connect with each other as scientists.
Yeah, where it's like you're acting like a quasi-militarial state, where it's like, because you're technically a part of the military, if you do that, you're doing treason.
Yeah.
But you're also your MO for your whole life has been sharing all the
it's all
information
collaboration.
you know with people from across the world
for the betterment of humanity.
Yeah, science, just the whole idea of science is all about collaboration and working together, and military is about compartmentalization. Those things are constantly at odds with each other.
You're right. I don't think it's so much. It's not as much about like a pure rat as it is just like a guy who did the thing that a lot of them could have done.
How many guys do you think went to see this movie expecting it to be like maybe close to 50% big bomb and wanted like that kind of military?
They want it. They're like,
movie?
show me Hiroshima.
Yeah.
I want to see the massacre.
Yeah. They want to see like they want to see like the Nick Cage military movie we saw.
Con Air.
Jesus Christ.
No,
fucking
The Rock.
the Woo movie.
Yeah.
Oh God.
God of War or Lord of War. Lord of War.
Wind Talkers.
No, Wind Talk.
Wind
Yeah.
Talkers.
They want to see something that's like more boots on the ground. Like let's see the action.
It's all of Damon's friends out there.
It's
fighting,
because
waiting for the bomb.
Because that's another thing where it's like, there's a platonic better here, but in most hands, this movie has a subplot that is a soldier on the ground fighting in World War II,
which sucks.
1,000,000%. And I would say like 80 or 90% of versions have that, because the fact that like they're just hearing about it is way smarter, because that's how it happened. And it plays into this whole like level of separation thing where like Oppenheimer is used to operating in this world of theory, and now all of a sudden he's making something so real.
Shout out to Albert Einstein.
So it works way better, but like the traditional movie just has that. Like it has a general like
Michael Bay fucking.
No, it has Matt Damon is playing a soldier who like calls Oppenheimer every now and then and is like, it's crazy out here. You gotta help us.
Drop it, man.
Like genuinely, like the floor here is so low.
But one of the genius things about this is, and one of the things that it frustrates me about the third act of this movie, is that they are very transparent of the real villain here might have been the military industrial complex all along. We had Japan.
The scene where they
Hitler was
picked the
dead.
fucking
Hitler
city?
was dead. And they're like, Japan's about to surrender, but like, we got to do this. And he's like, don't bomb Kyoto. That's where I like to honeymoon.
Kill me.
Insane.
Like,
that's
holy shit.
so fucking
I know.
good.
And that's also like a lot of lines in air where that's like straight up just a true thing.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Like
it worked, but it's one of those things where it's just fucking America's big cock has to just lay it all on the table, and they're like, we have to drop this bomb. We've been working on this for 2 years. We dropped $2 billion. You have to drop the bomb.
It comes down way more negative on Truman than I thought it would, to be honest.
I want to get to President
who was like an absolute
President
moron, by the way.
In contrast,
man, it's almost like a vice president taking over the president. Like generally, those aren't the brightest guys.
In contrast to
hear that, Brandon.
I don't want to be associated with what you're saying right
you
now.
Hear that, George H.W. Bush? How about
it's
that?
Jover.
How about that?
All right, there you go. That's better.
I haven't heard that yet.
Shout out to Adam. That was his review of Secret Invasion on Letterboxd. when that's Adam's review, you know,
Brother,
It's
that's
just
tough.
Jover.
You know,
That's
it's
a tough
Jover.
one.
So in contrast to Air, this movie doesn't have the speech that knows about Michael Jordan's impact on the culture.
No, I know. That's the thing.
That's
Air
one
has
of the
so
G-
many fucking like way too overt lines.
Like it knows
where it's like they're
knows
just saying a trivia fact just to say it. You
Yeah.
know?
Like there's no way that those Nike guys knew 100% certainty that Michael Jordan was going to be Michael Jordan. Like
I don't think. Well, I definitely don't think that they told him in a monologue that he would be Michael
Yeah,
Jordan.
he's just like, here's the thing. You were
Actually-
cut from your high school basketball team and you'll now be the greatest basketball player
Because
to
of
ever lace
me.
up.
and yet you're gonna quit to play baseball. So
sure,
what?
you're going to start with Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, and
Sure.
your dad's gonna get murdered because of gambling, probably.
And
so
yeah,
what?
You're going to buy a majority stake in the Charlotte Hornets and you're going to be a terrible owner, but people won't care.
Like there's no scene in this movie that does that type of bit about the world that we live in. It kind of does at the end, but it's so much more artistic and subtle. And it's we'll get to the final line, which I think is just fucking masterful. But this movie doesn't suffer from that level of just awareness of the audience perspective, where it has to constantly like point at the fact that like, hey, you know what the bomb did, so we're gonna make sure the characters know what the bomb did.
Well, you know why? Partially is because Nolan doesn't know what the fucking audience knows, because he doesn't know what humans are like.
Yeah, right.
Like for
no, that's true.
and a
That's
good
facts.
example of that is he correctly identifies McCarthyism as like, as it should be, is like a giant, humongous, major plot point in the life of this guy and the narrative of this guy. The general populace, we get a chapter about McCarthyism in our history textbooks, and that's honestly more than you would think we'd get the more you read about McCarthyism. That took over America for over a decade.
Yeah.
Like the amount of people who were completely erased from history,
Whether or not they were communists.
out of fear of being communist.
We're just now actually like, as you only learn about it as an adult, like who J. Edgar Hoover is. And when J. Edgar Hoover, like, I don't know, might have like killed Fred Hampton and like been responsible for some of the darkest tales in America's history.
Yeah,
like,
so it's like it's playing on, and the reason he picked, I think genuinely he went with this Strauss thing, is beyond the narrative device. That is like an insanely crucial element to the story of Oppenheimer. If you know some perceived story of Oppenheimer, however, most people just know like what he did. They know that he made the bomb. So like for the average person, they're like, yeah, that's Strauss. What's the thing with that Strauss shit? I knew he made the bomb and he made the bomb, and then the movie just kept going.
Kind of going back to what you were saying about like this movie being interested in the political, you know, the military
the bureaucracy
industrial complex of it all. I think this movie does a really good job about not being a movie about war precisely, but just a movie about what it's like to live during a time of war, because we don't see combat. We don't see any of these things that you generally see in a war movie.
Yeah, we see people.
But
we see people hearing about it.
But we feel what it must have been like to live during that time.
Yes, I agree with all that, but I think that one of the things that I bump up against, and this is kind of tease off a little bit of that, is that the first chunk of the movie feels very much, we're flashing to RDJ as this kind of surrogate narrator character, but for the most part, we are feeling what Oppie is feeling. We are seeing what Oppie is seeing. We are it has a very, very subjective viewpoint.
Yeah.
And whenever I think the subjective viewpoint might be at its most interesting, whenever you have to actually deal with the consequences of what you've done.
Fuck around and find out.
You actually find out. We have the one scene, the one gymnasium scene.
Incredible.
Which is, it
Low
is
key
really
the
good.
scene of the movie.
Really good. But that scene, I want more than that. Like that. I don't think that one scene gave me everything that I want to see the guilt that he had to carry for the rest of his life. Like, I
agree.
want to see that. That is much more interesting to me than the bureaucratic stuff of like, these are
But you see
the lowly
plenty of
shoe
it.
salesman that we see.
Killian's whole performance is layered with that.
I know, but you see the peak of the guild in that scene, and then there's a lot more movie after, and
Yeah.
that's it's like a writing device thing where like he. Another thing about the Strauss thing is that it plays a role in the narrative. Like it gives you structure, it gives you a narrator,
And
gives you a lot.
it lets Nolan do his fucking jumping timelines thing.
Yeah.
Because my boy, he cannot tell a
I know.
linear story. He has to be in 3 different timelines at the same time.
However, it makes it so you have to close that loop. You have to finish that story,
and he takes his time.
yeah, and it
Yeah.
takes a while. And I think that there are plenty of like peaks and valleys to the stuff that happens after that. Yeah, that gymnasium scene. But I think it's like very overtly the best scene in the movie, and I think it's very overtly, the end of the movie.
Can I tell you guys something embarrassing
What?
about that scene? And this is similar to the "Let Me Roll It" scene from Licorice Pizza a couple
you
years
went
ago.
to the bathroom.
I went to the bathroom during that scene on the first viewing.
So-
I saw all the reviews. People were talking about the gymnasium scene, and it's funny because it was a quick pee. It was really quick. Bathroom was conveniently right
my
across the hall.
You missed
But
the
I
whole
did
scene.
come right back in as soon as woman's face was peeling on the scene.
Hunter.
I'm sorry. I cannot control
you know
my
what?
bladder.
And this is why we were in a union. Because
And this is why I
this
watched
man-
the movie a second time.
This man went and saw it again.
yeah, I went and saw it a second time.
Yeah, and he
I'm-
peeved at a different point.
and Ernie, I'm still waiting for you to approve that expense report. So like
Sure.
whenever you get a second,
No, I'll
just
check
sign off
with
on
our
that.
EP.
Cool, thanks.
we're actually a 501c3. We're a nonprofit.
So
It's Brian is funding this whole operation.
that screening, the 70mm screening, Lee and I had to sit so fucking close to the screen because we were
Dude.
so late.
Me too.
That-
but I was vibing.
As soon as I sat down, I was like, I don't think I want to watch this movie this way. And I turned to Lee. I was like, should we go? And she's like, I'd be down to go, honestly. And then I kind of started looking up at the movie, and I was thinking like, I drove all this way to fucking Disney.
I know, it
Springs.
we
was-
drove
it
in
was
like an
such a
hour
drive.
and a half at
Bro.
rush hour traffic. Yo, fuck driving to Disney
Awful.
Springs in rush hour traffic.
That's another thing about this first viewing, which I'm glad I saw it a second time too.
Yeah.
Because I loved it
I was
the first
so
time, but
stressed the
when I
first
got
time.
there, I was fucking cranky.
Yeah.
I was like,
Same.
this is
tough.
This is horse shit.
Yeah.
Living in this fucking.
It took a while to come down from the crankiness to like settle into the movie.
Yeah.
And I was pissed because like the lady that let me into the theater, she was like, yeah, the press row is right here. And I'm like, where? I can't see shit.
yeah.
And I'm like trying to find the seats, and people are just staring at me, and they're like not letting me through. And I'm just like, so I can't sit there. So, okay, I guess I'll fucking sit in the front. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't the best way to watch this movie. I give it 5 minutes. I'm just sucked into
I know.
the movie.
That's the thing is, for me, I prefer too close to too far. When I'm too far, I just don't feel like I might as well just not be in a theater. Like,
Unless it's
If you're-
IMAX.
You know, I am a big fan of like right in the middle. Cause also whenever like I try and be as dead center as possible in movie theater, I want to be just close enough that it almost the frame takes up my entire eye line where I don't have to like look up and around, but also I'm not seeing like the whole border around the theater as well. And also I like to feel the vibes from all around me. Like I like to like hear the laughs. I like to hear the gasps. I like to
Yeah.
feel everything versus being in like the very back.
no, exactly.
theater.
So I was mad up close, like
Yeah.
bad for the eyes territory.
You're
and,
straining.
and I loved where I was
Yeah.
at because I was like, yeah, this is movie's
But
meant to overwhelm at points.
There was a moment where I was like, I kind of want to go up and like get a drink or like,
yeah, but think about the size of that areola
Yeah.
on Florence. You know,
dude, in IMAX, dude,
yeah.
the fucking pew pews.
Could you hear it?
So you heard all the
The sound of that nip. Fucking Dolby,
Can we
bro.
talk about how he
So-
says the "I have become death" line during while he's getting rizzed up?
I want to ask on the factual accuracy of that for his first time.
So what
reading
I'm
that
going to
line.
say about this is another reason that I have a lot of leniency for Nolan and also just like general like auteurs like this is because every time you watch their movie, you do get to feel like you're like learning about them.
He doesn't know what sex is.
He has no idea.
He is genuinely. I don't think that he's ever nutted from
Never.
sex.
He's Bo. Bo is afraid.
Yeah, except I think he's definitely jacked off a lot.
Yeah.
This is definitely a movie that once this hits streaming is going to reiterate the worst debate in every 4 months that pops up on Twitter is like, should we even have nudity in film? And the thing is, the first scene, it was like almost comical how the nudity
great.
is deployed.
It's great because it's like she's literally straddling him. He says the line that leads him to the creation and the destruction are one.
You know what?
Here's the thing. I don't think that Nolan thinks it's funny and we think it's funny in the same way. And I think that that's what's good about Nolan is just like, I'm just straddling you. And then I just get up and go read a Sanskrit book right here. What if you read this and then I hop back on? I don't think that Nolan and us I read it funny and like, is this fucking bad right now? Like, what am I seeing?
Yeah.
Like, is there any self-awareness to what's happening here?
That's the thing is I feel like I'm pretty keyed in with this guy, like knowing what he's like. So watching it, I was like, yeah, this completely tracks. Like, this is a Nolan product. This guy doesn't fuck.
Yeah.
He cannot fuck. He has no clue what it's actually like.
On the flip side, good use of nudity in a film is the second time that he goes to visit her in the hotel room.
Vision.
And
that one.
Well, the vision's fine.
That post-nut chat.
No, the post-nut chat of them just sitting there smoking a cigarette naked in a chair in the hotel room. I was like, this is cinema. This rocks. I'm all in for what this is visually and stylistically communicating. By just like immediate. That is the most post-nut clarity I've ever seen in my life. It's just like, you have sex, meet up with a girl in a hotel room, and you're like, here's the thing.
I'm about to drop a nuke.
You could kill yourself, and I don't care. Don't fucking call me. I'm gonna build a nuke right now.
I also think that scene is more indicative of how he actually nuts, which is like in adjacent chairs with a naked lady.
Yeah. And he probably puts like a TED talk on an
of
iPad.
Nutting unless he's doing the job.
Yeah, he's not fucking anyone. But he's coming with a lady there.
He has to have like a lecture from like a quantum physicist on as like mood setting.
I have no idea if Christopher Nolan's married. He probably is. Is his wife more of a Florence Pugh or more of a Elizabeth Debicki? What's more his vibe?
Probably Debicki. He is married. I think her name is Emma.
Does he have children?
Emma Thomas, I believe, is her name.
Wait, like not the famous.
No, that's Thompson.
That's
Thompson.
Emma Thomas is her name. They've been married since 1997.
Oh, good for them.
They have 4 children: Flora, Rory, Magnus, and Oliver.
Jeez, these British fuckers. Jesus goddamn Christ.
They're happy.
Good for them.
They live in Los Angeles.
I am happy for him.
She's a co-producer on his movies.
Quick Google image search. She's pegging that man.
She's nutting in him.
Mm-hmm. But they didn't have that back in the 40s. We couldn't put that in this thing.
Honestly, like, I think that we should give Nolan more credit for the respect that he gives women in his films. Just based on his home life.
It's just
he has so much respect for women.
That's another thing. It's like watching a Tarantino. It's like, yeah, this guy has no fucking clue.
I think that this might be like some of the worst women writing in his movies.
But the acting is great.
Okay, cool. Like, you can just like fucking put glitter on a piece of shit, but it's still a piece of shit. Like, I don't know what you want, man. I think that it's like pretty fucking egregious. Everything that they are asking,
Florence and Emily Blunt.
Especially Emily Blunt character.
Yeah.
Emily Blunt, I think it gets so pathetic. And I've seen the excuse of like, well, they're shooting this subjectively from Oppenheimer's view, and Oppenheimer viewed women as objects. So it's actually okay. It's like, no, I'm starting to think that might just be Chris over here. I think our boy Christopher might just really have like the worst wife problem of any working director that I can remember.
That's true.
He just cannot stop shooting wives as hysterical women.
The thing is, it makes more sense in this movie than in most of his movies, because in the 40s, like wives were like meant, they were like,
but
they were forced to be like that.
The thing
They
is
had
that
no choice.
Emily Blunt's almost set up in an interesting role. Whenever you first see her at the party, whenever you see her, they're riding the horse together in New Mexico, you're like, oh, this is an interesting character. And the moment that she becomes wife mode, he's just like, I don't know how to do this. You cry a lot and you get drunk because you're a bad mother. It's just he doesn't know what to do with
It's
himself.
one of those things where it's like, if you wanted to dedicate time to get into her psyche, you definitely could. However, like most women back there were forced into a wife mom mode that they didn't really want to be in and were subsequently miserable and not as consequential as they should have been. And it makes more sense to throw that in a movie like this than to make it in like a modern movie that's entirely of his own creation, which he's done many times.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing is like, it's almost just, I almost just wish, just do the whiplash mode where like she doesn't exist, or just make her like a no.
It's like you
don't even make it a role.
Yeah, you could just not even bother. Like Nolan wants to just make some movies about some fucking dudes.
Just do it about how like hard it is to be a white man. Like I just fucking.
You did have a great tweet about this about the Emily Blunt character.
Yeah, that's Emily Blunt. It almost makes it more egregious whenever we do get the scenes of her like being just like, you just let them make a mockery of you in there. He's just pulling your little boy dick out and jerking you off, and nothing comes out because you are a boy.
It's Cecily Strong.
It's Cecily Strong, and I think you should leave. That was the entire time. The second time I was watching this, I was thinking about that.
See, that's where it gets condescending.
It draws more attention
when he
to
tries.
The fact.
Yeah, when he tries to give her like a very powerful like exit to the movie, and it's like, okay, wow,
cool.
She didn't shake a guy's hand.
Crazy
Damn.
how like she like just abandoned her son for like
I know
several years.
They both suck.
She owns Jason Clarke though. She owns him.
She owns him in like a troll way. Like she doesn't really she doesn't own him via like intelligence. She just owns him with
girl bosses him.
She's like I thought you said this. You know,
she is what fucking conservatives think like Barbie owning people is. Like it's one of those things where it's like, is this owning? This is like the most like
and it's I mean, and it's
shit.
another one of those things where it that comes after the actual climax of the movie, and it is you know, it's built up to be its own little climax, and you're like, yeah, okay, this is a climax. Like, you know what I mean? No, this is like a like throwing a bone to like the lady character. I think you're right. Where like, if he's just gonna go full like making some movies about dudes, don't be condescending and just like give a lady a part just for the fuck of it. Like, just be like, yeah, no, he had a wife and he like cheated on her a bunch, and like they abandoned their child. They both sucked. Like,
oh my god, that was nuts.
I did love that thing.
Stuff. I love them abandoning the child. Don't get me wrong.
Abandoned my boy.
But the thing is also going back to the framing device of this movie of we actually want to make sure that you know as the audience that RDJ is the villain, not Oppenheimer. Would this movie have been better if we just kind of go maybe like tortured anti-hero in the third act, where it fully becomes like he is a villain but of his own making, and now he has to live with the consequences of becoming this tortured character? Because I think by the end of this, we aren't necessarily supposed to be cheering for or cheering against Oppenheimer.
That's the question.
He ends in this gray, which I get is the point, but I almost wonder if that is Nolan here.
I think Nolan is more interested in the discussion. He wants to just raise the question and have the audience ask.
I know
it just engage in the conversation of where, because I don't know where he stands. I don't know if he thinks of Oppenheimer as a hero or an American patriot. Like, I don't know quite where he stands.
I know exactly where he stands. Nolan thinks of Oppenheimer as very important, and to Nolan,
maybe the most important.
And to Nolan, that matters way more than whether or not he was good or bad.
Right.
Nolan cares a lot about important people.
I think Nolan is also very concerned with the idea of like the nuclear apocalypse.
Oh, well, definitely. But he's concerned with the idea. He's not concerned that we think Oppenheimer is like a bad guy because of X. I think a large part of it is also that he's concerned because Oppenheimer isn't known as important as important as he is historically, which is true. That's very true. Yeah. Like he did not go down in the annals of history as like the most important dude ever, when he is one of the most important dudes ever.
Is he the most important human being of all time, like Christopher Nolan's playing? I'm gonna go ahead and say probably not.
I mean, if he invented the nuclear bomb, If Nolan is fixated on the idea of like a nuclear holocaust, like some kind of nuclear apocalypse,
is the nuclear holocaust, is creating a nuclear bomb more important than the first caveman to create a tool?
Okay, is he more important than the woman who invented Barbie?
Is he more important than like fucking Joan of Arc? Like, I don't know. If we're just like making up these things, like, I don't know. It's
Christ.
a bold, than Jesus Christ
our
himself.
King. No, I mean, that's a debatable thing where it comes down to that the plans to make a nuke were well underway. If you were positing that it simply would not have happened without Oppenheimer, then yeah, he probably is one of the five most important people. I mean, I doubt that to be true, but I don't know because I don't know how nukes work. Maybe he really did make that shit happen.
Well, they draw it on the chalkboard. It's this thing goes into this thing and then boom.
Another thing that
should we really give the credit then to our boy Benny Safdie, who played,
I want to bring that up.
They make a bigger bomb.
He made the H bomb, which is actually what we now think of as weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah.
Well, that's that. Yeah. See, and this is another thing that I learned about in middle school and spent my whole life
that nukes and H bombs are actually different things from each other.
No,
I didn't know that growing up.
That H bombs are 100 times bigger than nukes, and like they're the world destroyer, and they have been in existence almost exactly as long as nukes. Just like they haven't been actually used on people. They've been detonated in Russia before, and that is an extremely fascinating concept, and I do like that he just had to explore that idea a good amount in this movie because it's fucking true.
I love Benny Safdie.
H bombs are horrific, bro.
Yeah,
it is the destruction they can do like per pounds per kiloton.
I mean, they could take out like any major city in the world. But I think that you could make a case for Nolan being pro Oppenheimer. I don't think that that's necessarily what this movie is going for, but I think there is a case that you could say that Nolan's like, hey, maybe this guy was judged a little too harshly.
He's pro Oppenheimer because he's pro important people.
Right. But I'm not saying that is definitively the case. I'm saying you could make that case. And I think that the key part of that is, again, the third act of the movie where you get that connection with the Louis Strauss subplot where he basically realizes that he handed him the win with the trial that he orchestrates, where he gets to say on the record that he was against the use of nuclear weapons in a theater of war and that he opposed the H bomb. He did. Yeah, that's a real he vocalizes it as he will be remembered for Trinity and not for Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
And he did genuinely like get in the way of H-bomb research from America because he was like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Like, this
I now realize that this is
but he knew the whole time. The thing is, and the gray area is that he knew the whole time he was making it that like, come on,
that's
dude.
the thing.
You knew they were gonna fucking use it.
And I mean, and Killian's doing a pretty good job of playing a guy who like, you know, he has a head on his shoulders, but he is sort of feeling himself.
Yeah.
But
you know
that's
what I mean?
and that is the one of the aspects in the third act that does work really well is RDJ just being like he wants to play up being the fucking martyr for everything, but like he could have stopped at any time. He could have realized what he was doing, but he
knew that they were going to do it anyway.
And here's the thing: is that scientists. There's something about the great scientists that exist that like you want the glory because so much of science is, as much as it is, like we've said, it's a very collaborative thing. We all want to work together to work for like the greater man. You want to have a fucking law named after you.
Yeah.
You want to have an element named after you. You want to be a Nobel Prize winning scientist. And you want to be labeled as one of the greats. And if you are labeled as the person who built the nuclear bomb, then
you're one of the greats.
You're one of the greats. You go down in history.
And it is also true facts that like, you know, there is a reason that he was chosen to helm this. It's not just because he was like the smartest guy. He was known as sort of like a great articulator of science to people.
The politician.
Yeah, he was good. Yeah, he was a good translator.
Yeah.
He was like a spokesman for science.
Well, he also says that they could control him because of his communist background, too.
Yeah.
That was another part of it. And I think the other part of it, too, is that because he's Jewish, like, he felt a need to fight against the Nazis.
Yeah, they tried to play into that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. That wasn't a huge part of the movie, but I think that is a key piece of it, is that he wanted to make sure that the Nazis didn't get to it first.
Yeah, no, yeah, he was in Germany not too long before. Like like there's a lot of truth about like Oppenheimer as a like this wasn't just like a thing where you go back and you actually read about the guy and it turns out he had no personality. Oppenheimer was a really interesting person. Yeah. Like it's someone that is worth exploring in this way as like this like magnetic fucking weirdo who also just happened to be like the smartest guy.
Are you talking about Christopher Nolan? Inventor of the superhero movie?
I genuinely,
have you heard about that theory that this is about him making The Dark Knight?
Yeah, that's dumb as hell. I genuinely would never ever want to meet Christopher Nolan.
He's a big fucking nerd, dude.
Yeah, it's
not in like a fun nerd way. He's like, it seems like one of the most pretentious people work.
It's just if he
but
brought
he's talented.
Of course he is. Like that's undeniable.
It's just if he brought me in to like explore an idea with him, I would love to, because like I would love to like work with him on something, but I don't want to talk to the fucking guy. I mean, now he knows how to.
We know based on his Wikipedia with Emma Thomas that he is a dad. I mean, this is an early entry in the WBAM's Dad Movie of the Year. Achievement in dad cinema. Like this is very, very clearly a dad movie. I mean, our conversation just now is teetering into the turning 30 golf type movie where like we're gonna become we're nuke guys now. We're World War II guys now. Like we're gonna be building our little model sets of Los Alamos. You know, this is who we are.
I'll make the.
I bought an Oppie Ken.
Yeah,
I'll make the Tiger Woods movie.
Okay,
dude.
Dad movie?
All right,
relatively similar.
Honestly, that would be an incredible. That's going to be the dad movie.
He
for
is
our
not.
generation.
Yeah, because he is remembered largely as like a huge phenomenon who then like, you know, it turns out is also a piece of shit and like sucks and fell off. He's the greatest player of a sport who ever lived, like by far, and it's crazy.
Yeah, his high is unbelievable. Real quick, you said that you wanted to rank the guys.
Yeah,
I'm pulling up a list of just the guys to rank.
We got to start to wrap it up soon. We're at the 2.5 hour mark.
All right.
So I think if you count Killian out, because he's just like the unspoken MVP. The movie is named after his character.
We got to count Damon out too. He gets too much.
Okay,
he's not just a guy in this movie.
Do we count RDJ?
Then
out?
Count RDJ out too.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. They're all elevated. And they're all, by the way, all three of those are elite performances. Yes. They all do an awesome job.
So I think my bid for number 1 is Albert Einstein.
Oh, you're going for our boy Tom Conti?
I think Albert Einstein is incredible in this movie. He plays into the final scene in this movie where Oppie's just like, remember when we thought we were going to incinerate the world? I'm afraid we did. You know, the entire arc of that, what that conversation is centered around Albert. There's that moment where he just appears behind the cab and he's like, oh,
that's so
E equals MC square.
That shit was so stupid. I'm gonna go my number 1 slot. I want to go with Casey Affleck.
That's a great guy.
I mean, just you're talking about one single scene.
Yeah, and he really carried some weight to him that if you'd show me Good Will Hunting, I'd be like, he will never be an Oppenheimer serial meme guy, you know.
I'm trying to see.
He will never be the scariest guy in Oppenheimer.
I know you really want to pick Josh Peck. And when he says, hug me, brother, before he hits
it's nuclear.
It is. It's really the casting of Josh Peck in this is him and our boy Jack Quaid, the single most distracting.
Did you
Jack
see
Quaid playing bongos is the funniest fucking thing.
Did you see the bongos were real? Did you see the photo of that? There's a guy from Los Alamos.
Let's go.
With the fucking bongos, dude.
And Jack Quaid's like, don't worry, guys. Don't worry, guys. I got this.
I'm going to say, leaving the theater, I said this to you. Like, he was I think, genuinely the worst performance in the movie, even though he only has a few lines, but every time I was like, this is just like an actor.
Fucking Jack Quaid.
This is just an actor acting.
Benny Safdie not has to be up there.
Benny
with the sunscreen on, looking at the fucking nuke.
And he honestly is more of a character than most of the guys in the movie. Like,
until they build a bigger bomb.
Yeah, he gets. I really liked the addition of this like we didn't have to get into the H-bomb distinction shit.
Yeah.
But I like that we did because it is important. And it's like, just like, it's dork shit to throw in a movie.
The dads out there would have been fucking rioting if they didn't get into the distinction.
If I was going to like power rank people in this,
Krumholtz
is really high.
Dude,
Krumholtz
let's
is
go.
Forgot about Crumb.
fucking believable in this movie
Yeah.
as like a true supporting
Oh,
role.
what a warm presence.
God,
the crumb
you-
heads are eating.
You need Krumholtz in
crumbs.
this goddamn movie. He's eating crumb.
We're eating crumb cakes. That boy's thick now.
Starting from the bottom is a tie between our boy
Rami.
well, it's our boy Jack Quaid and then Rami Malek. I think Rami Malek is like pretty bad.
What about Dane DeHaan? Were you into him?
Okay,
Hey,
I really
you were
love
into
it.
it?
I love
Yeah,
what Dane
I like
DeHaan's
that
doing
he's
in
like
this movie.
he's like, okay, I'm kind of ugly now.
Yeah.
Dane DeHaan's like, I want to play like evil. Like
Yeah.
I want you to think like I could.
I'm the worst
I could
person.
both be an American general and also a Nazi general in this at the same time.
And a Russian.
yeah. Okay.
I agree.
I can see
I
all.
really enjoyed him. I think that one of the more pitch perfect performances that was just like frustrating was Jason Clarke
Oh,
as that
what a
prosecutor.
guy.
Like he was
Love
just
that guy.
He's
Dude, the scene we were talking about this, Drew. We're like that scene where Oppie is like imagining the nuke, like that's just a big ass light flashing into that set, illuminating Jason Clarke's face. Like there's no VFX.
No, we were talking because I'm sure there was an amount of exposure jacked up, but like you can't fake just like turning a crazy
brightest
light on.
light
Yeah,
on
like a
possible in
football
there.
stadium light.
And Clarke is just fucking
And
screaming.
he's
his
just
face
fucking
off.
yelling. He's like shaking.
He's really good. He's in part of like one of the more annoyingly written parts of the movie.
But it's just like
he is very good.
He
at
needs
that
to be
role.
a dick. Like
No,
that's his role.
I love Jason Clarke in general, so I
Yeah.
am always happy to see him in a movie like
no,
this.
you love Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
I do.
Yeah.
Josh Hartnett, our boy.
Is he back? Are we back?
Hey,
He's
Ruse de Guerre,
excellent in this
Operation
movie.
Fortune.
Honestly,
is Nolan
looking
like
fly as
leading the
hell.
charge? Like, I thought this dude was done.
Josh deserves a good shout out here because
He's really good in this.
landing the part. I was like, Josh Hartnett, huh?
Yeah.
And he acts.
He exemplifies the whole idea of turning theory into reality.
I know
Yes,
he
yeah,
plays like
very,
a really
very important.
he plays a good
character.
middle ground character almost between Oppie and Damon
Yeah.
in terms of practicality. Like
Right.
he's somewhere in the middle and like politically somewhere in the middle
Yeah.
of the two. Like
He wants to vote for it and not talk about it.
yeah.
Now we didn't even talk about the whole like what are the political leanings of this movie? Oppenheimer communist? Is he just kind of like interested in different ideals?
He
of
likes
things?
labor unions.
no, I took it as he's
He
definitely
likes to dabble.
he's definitely very clearly into like leftist politics
With his brother.
but he figured out that he had to sort of ditch that shit.
Yeah.
Like
to
in
be
order
in the Manhattan Project.
I also don't think that like I think that he is smart enough to kind of realize that committing to one universal ideal like kind of closes you off, not just from like a professional perspective, but it closes doors for you intellectually as well to think
Yeah.
about different things.
No.
So he's like would never actually commit to
and
anything
also
like
like I mean that's another I think positive of this movie is that it gave a decent amount of airtime to like to it got into like a decently complex version of the leftism in the 40s. And if we're saying, which I sort of am, that this movie is definitely lionizing Oppenheimer as like, if not positive, like significant, the fact that that is a part of him is like surprising to
It's
me.
at least it's contributing to the martyrdom of him.
Yeah,
Like,
it
that's-
doesn't show it in a negative way.
Yeah.
It definitely shows it in a positive way.
It shows it in a way of like,
socialist-
he was like this, but then he is also sort of he has an ego and he took this shit on, and it was I agree that like they could have gone more into like the idea that he wanted to do this shit. He can feel guilty all he wants. Anyway, ranking dudes.
three other guys that I just want to give a shout
President
out to. If we
Mank.
aren't doing a
we got to
full
do Mank.
Dude, Gary Oldman owns his scene as Harry Truman. He is so fucking good in that
handkerchief.
scene.
I'm gonna start doing this to you guys.
Some fucking you got blood on your hands. I think he is so good in this movie. Is like fucking Colonel Sanders talking ass just
Yeah,
out
and then
here.
he's like,
just-
never let that pussy back in my office.
That cry, baby.
I love
It's
it.
a great scene.
He's so good in
Yeah.
this.
Nagasaki.
Nagasaki.
Big shouts to Tim DeKay for playing the senator that is asking most of the questions at the trial.
Oh, that guy.
hey,
Him.
Too
He's
many
another
guys.
that
ultimate
guy.
that guy. Where my USA Network heads at? You know he's the co-star of White Collar.
Yeah, there we go. I
Characters
was like,
welcome.
two other that guys. Well, Matthew Modine, I think, is evolved from that
Yeah.
guy. People know who Matthew Modine is.
Stranger
really,
Things.
really enjoyed him in this. And then our boy, millennial legend Devin Bostick from Diary of a Wimpy Kid himself, who is another one of the scientists.
Yeah,
I knew I recognized
Niedermeyer.
him.
He's also an Okja.
Yeah.
Might have seen him
There's a
from
good
Okja.
interview where someone brings that up with Nolan. He's like, yeah, he's in Diary of a Wimpy Kid. And Nolan's like, oh, yeah, Roderick rules.
Roderick Ruse.
Says it like fucking Ringo or something.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Kenneth Branagh as Niels Bohr.
Let me tell you, I'm glad with the amount of Kenneth Branagh that we got in this
Okay.
movie. Glad we didn't get much more of him. As much as I love Kenneth Branagh doing a Danish accent,
James Darcy. James Darcy heads rise up.
yo, James Darcy.
Yeah, the professor that he poisons at the beginning. I found that scene. That was one of the scenes we missed the first.
Oh, you missed
screening.
that scene?
Yeah.
Oh no, I was in there by the time that happened.
That was one of the scenes that kind of sets up the movie without you knowing it sets up the movie, and then on a second viewing, it all clicks together where it's like he intentionally is doing harm, but then he feels like he needs to undo that harm to feel better about himself and kind of take it back. It sort of like is a microcosm of the entire movie.
Yeah,
in
and
that
it
one
also
moment.
it functions as like a classic screen, like a save the cat moment.
Yeah.
where it's like, yeah, this guy has a heart.
Yeah.
Moving on.
He would poison his professor, but actually he wouldn't.
Mhm. And that's what matters the most.
Yeah.
Live update. Friend of the pod, Colin,
He got out?
Just
Yeah,
got
he
out
just-
of Oppenheimer for the first
Let
time.
me guess. It rocked.
It was great.
The only thing
He
that
loved it.
The only thing he sent me was mad respect to Josh Peck detonating the bomb.
Yeah.
That was epic.
Hug me, brother.
he sent me a couple texts about there was definitely a few stretches of nonstop dialogue that had me lost at times. Same, buddy. So much information being spat out. The 3 hours sort of flew by.
Yeah.
Thought it was a great movie.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I agree
It's-
with a lot
It's
of
like
it.
you said. There's so many like overt
Yeah.
issues, and then but the whole thing as a whole, you're like, damn,
just
what a
hits
what
It's
a
you.
kind of
classic.
it's undeniable is the thing, and that's
even
one of the things that
even
it's,
the bros that are like, oh, I want to see Big Bomb go off. Like they'll probably be like, yeah, it was good. It was really good.
Do you guys want to try and make a ranking of Nolan?
You want to
together?
fight? You want to have another
let's
fucking
just do
argument
I
on
think
this
that we can do this
podcast?
fairly quickly.
Okay, bottom is definitely following Insomnia, Dark Knight Rises. Like that's no discrepancy there, right? Right.
I'd put Tenet down there too.
Get the See, this is what I'm talking about.
But Tenet.
He wants to fight.
Okay, so what? So right after Dark Knight Rises, where's Tenet going? Because it can't go much higher than fucking Dark Knight Rises.
Well, I know you love Memento, but I would put,
Memento's going way up. I'm
Okay.
saving Memento.
So
what about
I'm
Batman
not-
Begins? We can put Batman Begins down here.
that's the script of Insomnia is just like it's almost like counting
I'm fine with
True Romance as a Tarantino movie when he didn't direct it. You know what I mean? It's like if Nolan didn't write the movie, it's not a Nolan movie. I don't care if he directed
okay,
it.
I'm fine with putting. I wasn't even counting following in this. But we can put Insomnia at the bottom. That's fine.
yeah,
I'm not
because
gonna fight for
It's
fucking
also
Insomnia.
just like it's not a Nolan movie because like it doesn't have
Yeah, it's a remake of
it's a script he didn't do.
right.
And he's such like a script heavy director.
I'm fine with doing following, then Insomnia, and then you want to do Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing is, after this, like the way I make sense of it in my head is all of his movies, you could make the case for them being number one. So it's like, it's just, you can't do a 6, 7,
I'd-
8 way tie for number one.
So I think that
So that doesn't make any
a
sense.
clear middle tier. Well, one, I think that Tenet has to go next. I don't think Tenet can go any
All right.
higher on here.
Sure.
I you know what? I agree.
Okay.
You cannot
Fine.
put Tenet
I'll
higher
give you
than
that.
this mix, which I think is Interstellar, Inception, Batman Begins. I think that those three are like
So
peak mid tier, and you can kind of filter those out where you want.
that's valid, but I'm sort of a Nolan traditionalist, and as a result, I just didn't really respond to Dunkirk the way that most like film people did. Like film people were like, "Holy shit!" But like, I was like,
It's a great movie.
"It is. It's a
Sorry.
really good movie."
It's a very
But
well-made
like,
movie.
I like it when Nolan is in his true bag of overwriting things. Like, I think that there are times when his overwriting is better than regular writing. You know what I mean?
What if I told you that Inception was one of the greatest movies ever made, and that
Okay.
should be held in the same regard as movies such as
maybe I regret doing this.
The Matrix, Fight Club, like truly like mind bending.
Rewatch Fight Club. Inception is not really worse than Fight Club. Like, Fight Club is like
David
stupid.
Fincher is so much of a better filmmaker than Christopher Nolan, guys. I don't know what the fuck you guys are talking about.
In terms of like what? Which thing?
There are no other movies like Inception.
Filmmaking,
Inception.
No, but I'm saying, so
no
what
one
is it?
else could make a movie like Inception.
Is
it
he
is
better?
a
And
truly
is that-
singular
Is that
movie.
okay? I think that might be okay.
No.
I think Interstellar might be better than Inception, guys.
Yeah, that's my number one. Spoilers.
That's a fair take.
Interstellar is your number one? Whoa, what?
It's just
yeah, it's really fucking good.
It's Murph. Love does transcend
both
time.
of these movies, in particular Inception, because like Interstellar at least has the paradigm of like space movies to compare it to,
Which I love.
I know.
You know I love some sci-fi.
Inception is entirely of its own creation in a way that I think is super cool for a big ass budget blockbuster action movie.
So
I think that fucking rocks, and I think it's worth celebrating.
So are we putting Batman Begins then?
Yes.
At what is
Yes.
that? 9?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really care much
Okay.
for Batman Begins.
I like the movie.
I like it.
This is a good
Killian.
spot for
It's
it.
Killian. What do you guys want here? If you guys are both vouching for Inception,
For
Interstellar,
the longest time, as long as I remember being a sentient film boy, I love The Prestige.
Prestige is you are not putting The Prestige.
I
this low.
rewatched it this week.
Nope.
I'm sorry. He's made better movies. He just has, including Oppenheimer.
Here's
The Prestige is like it sort of strikes me as like a transitory like the movie that comes before peak overwriting, because that movie is overwritten to hell.
It's a great movie.
It is.
I
It's
love
really
the
good.
movie.
It's just like,
once you know what happens, it doesn't play as well.
and it is not as well directed as bigger budget movies that he's made, which
Yeah.
is really interesting, because a lot of people get a hold of more money and they get worse, but he got more money and he did get better.
yeah,
I refuse to put The Prestige this
Okay.
low. I think The Prestige has to be
Oppenheimer,
Heimer because
Heimer.
Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer. I think Prestige is so good. I think
when was the last time you watched
I
it?
think Christian Bale is second to Killian, might be my favorite performance in any Christopher Nolan movie. Hugh Jackman and Christopher Nolan and Christian Bale. And
the
Prestige.
twist in The Prestige is not the same kind of twist as something like The Sixth Sense,
Here's the thing.
where you can rewatch the movie and still get the same out of it.
I don't think you have enough respect for Nikolai Tesla. And I think that's your
David
problem.
Bowie, great performance.
I don't think that you have enough respect.
He's in
for
like 2
Tesla.
scenes.
I don't think you have respect for how
When was the
important
last time you
Tesla
saw
was.
this movie?
It's been a couple of years. I don't. Chris Nolan's
I
not
rewatched
guy.
it this week. I'm telling you, I had this movie number 1. I had it number 1. I rewatched it. I still love it. I'd still give it like a 9 out of 10, as I would like basically all these movies, because I fucking love Chris Nolan.
If you're putting The Prestige this fucking low, we're keeping Memento in like top 3 territory.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. All right.
Then
you gotta. I agree. I think you should rewatch it, because like it really
This
just
is
strikes me
bullshit.
as like a nascent version of what he really blossomed into.
Yeah.
Yeah,
lot of
I
ways.
think that it's before some of the Nolanisms became kind of
it's like
too
when you
egregious
do
and
when you
too
do the
annoying.
magic, when you know how the magic tricks
Here's
are
the
done,
thing.
when you know the trick cards, how they work, like it's just not as good.
Magic is fucking cool, guys. Here's the thing. So within
Even
a
when you
3-week
know
span,
exactly
within
how
a
it-
3-week span, I saw Tom Cruise do magic, and last night I saw Pete Wentz do fucking
God.
magic on stage. Pete Wentz
We're
did a
on
disappearing
hour
act on stage.
2:45.
And I ascended to a higher plane, and I quit my job, and I have news for you, and I'm gonna become a magician full time.
Next, I think is Oppenheimer. I think 5. What is this? 5?
I actually have
6?
Oppenheimer higher on my Nolan list, which is kind of surprising, but I'm okay with. We're in the range of Oppenheimer.
It can climb higher than this
If you want to put Oppenheimer here.
Yeah. No, I think this is a good. It's set for high.
Do you, Ernie or Drew? Do you want to put something below Oppenheimer here at 6? Mid Nolan tier rankings.
I mean, you know where I want to put fucking Dunkirk, but you guys won't do that.
We can put Dunkirk here. It's fine.
You put
It's my number 2. I don't give a shit.
Watch it just on like a regular TV. And
I did last night, and it was fucking awesome.
I like Dunkirk more than Oppenheimer. I think Dunkirk is so much tighter of a movie because the genius of Dunkirk is that like it doesn't let Nolan talk.
It's so good. It's so good. Dude.
Nolan is at his best when he's just making the most insane spectacle things you've ever seen.
There's
in your
no
life.
bullshit.
And
He's just like fuck everything.
fat.
I'm gonna give you
It's like
just
when you
visceral action.
You buy
for
like
90
92% lean beef,
Yeah.
where it's almost like too lean, but I would rather have that than like a 70-30.
I'd rather have McDonald's
Okay.
all day, every day.
You can put it. I don't care. I think Dark Knight is next.
Man, Inception, Interstellar are just coming up so goddamn high on this list, and I regret this already. Doing this exercise together.
What compares from a guy that has that much money to make a movie that he fabricated entirely? Like, and they're good, not just they're known as like generally pretty good to critics, and then also every fucking person who went to the theater was like, this rocks. That doesn't happen, bro. I don't know I don't know.
They went into a black hole. They went in.
And Interstellar's like dumb as hell, but I love it. I put Inception above it just because I've seen Inception a million times. I like the pitter patter of dialogue throughout. Yeah. Like I came to love it. I think it's a way better version of what he's going for in The Prestige, which is just motherfuckers talking way too much. I think that it's sort of like the peak of his powers in a lot of ways, where it is doing its entirely own thing. There's not a ton of precedent for what he's trying to do in Inception. Is not tied to any genre as much as most of his movies are.
So just to recap where we're at right now, and I'm not gonna fight too hard on this because I'm
surprised that his most successful movies are at the top.
I'm not acting because I don't know if that's even necessarily true. Based on just box office alone, number 12.
Let's put Memento here.
Number 12, the following, or just following: 11, Insomnia; 10, Dark Knight Rises; 9, Tenet.
I would put Dark Knight Rises above Tenet.
I would
personally.
As well. I would as well. I think Dark Knight Rises is a lot more fun than Tenet.
Tenet rocks.
Dark Knight Rises, though,
Dark Knight Rises is a goddamn mess, but like so is Tenet.
It's too much, but like it does end all of the shit. Like it's ending a trilogy, which is hard.
Yeah, but have you ever considered that I ordered my hot sauce an hour ago?
Yeah, temporal pincer
movement.
I'm fine. Okay. 11 Insomnia, 10 Tenet. 10 Tenet just feels right.
Tenet.
We got it. It's Tenet.
Yeah. Let's just Tenet.
9 Dark Knight Rises, 8 Batman Begins, 7 fucking Prestige. 6 Oppenheimer.
Okay,
Oppenheimer's too low, man. I
put it above.
I think Oppenheimer needs to be higher.
But
put it at 5.
What are we moving it above?
You want to flip Dunkirk and Oppenheimer?
Sure.
You okay with that?
Sure. Fuck it. But then you have to put Memento.
I think Oppenheimer is definitely better than Dunkirk. I'm sorry.
6 Dunkirk, 5 Oppenheimer, 4 Dark Knight. Can I be honest with you guys? I understand the cultural significance of Dark Knight. I understand how important it is. I think that the opening of Dark Knight is amazing. I think Heath Ledger is amazing. That movie fucking drags, dude. They go to China at one point in it, or Hong Kong.
15 minutes is fine.
Yeah, 15 minutes of your movie is way too long.
It's fine. Grab a sandwich. It's
that
fine.
movie, I think that's actually a movie that suffers from the home viewing because the technology wasn't quite there to flip back and forth between shooting in IMAX and shooting regular. So whenever you were watching at home, the aspect ratio jumps are really distracting. That's how I feel.
It also has
Just
one of the
me
greatest
personally.
performances ever in the history of movies.
I know. It has to be in the top 4 or 5.
Yeah, it's also
I get that.
I'm taking all these movies in with the expectation of bloat. You know what I mean? Like that's sort of a given in most of these,
Yeah.
including Oppenheimer. Like I was going in being like, yeah, it's definitely going to be too much shit. But like that. Also, it's another thing, like I said with Oppenheimer, where it's like compare it to its contemporaries, and it's just blowing them out of the water.
So
it's just exploding every other similar contemporary movie.
Number 4, Dark Knight. I think number 3 has to be Inception.
Sure,
I would
That's
put
fine.
Memento below like a I would put it below Oppenheimer personally.
I think that Memento is the closest thing that Nolan's ever gotten to a perfect script. That Memento is the only time in Nolan's entire filmography
but
where
Nolan's
he
not a
has
script
made.
guy. You can't judge his
But
filmography.
I
on
also
his
think
scripts.
that the filmmaking of Memento is tremendous. Everything that is happening in like the acting, the performances, the story that it's telling. works
that's
so
saying that
well.
like the best Martin Scorsese movie is Mean Streets. Like the dude, like
He
leveled
leveled
up a lot.
That's what I would say. But the thing is, there are certain directors where I feel
Mean
the
Streets
same
maybe
way.
not, but Taxi Driver you could say, and this is closer to a Taxi Driver than I would say it is a Mean Streets.
Okay.
It's
Sure.
fair. There are directors that I feel this way about, where like the early simple. It's funny to call it simple.
Yeah, Memento, the most simple story.
I agree, and it's another one that's like, for what it did, it's one of a kind. It's a one of a kind movie. He carved out space where he was like, yeah, I'm the guy who writes these insanely difficult.
It was nominated for Best
things.
Original Screenplay as like just a total indie project. Came completely out of nowhere.
Guy Pearce rocks. in it.
Unbelievable in that movie. So
I need
fucking
to-
good.
He
to
does.
revisit
No,
it.
I agree. It's definitely my top half. It's just
I watched that in the last few months, and that movie is like aged like fucking fine wine. It is aged so well.
The reason that I have Inception, I think, in my number 1 for him is that in this, I don't remember who described it in this way, but that movie has to do what it does when it's being annoying, where it's just like getting through so much explanation.
It's nonstop.
Because you know what has to make sense by the third act is nonsense.
Yeah.
Like what has to, the fact that
it's 3 dream levels. on top
what
of
has
each
to make
other.
sense is people in the snow level, and then cut to people in slow motion falling off a
Yeah.
bridge, and then
Oh.
cut to,
Getting chills.
I know that's the thing, and then cut to
I also
hit
think,
record
like-
Joseph Gordon-Levitt in the fucking like floating through space.
Which rewatching it, I still don't know how they did that.
It's fucking phenomenal.
I don't
that's the thing
understand.
is
Listen, when you see the way that like some like screensavers look right now, like it's unbelievable. Some of the visual effects that you can make things look if you don't take any kind of story context into account.
that what I'm saying is like the story is built so
Yeah.
when you get to that point, it all tracks and it hits. It may not have hit emotionally for you, but like the smash success of that movie kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah.
The fact that like people were able to track it enough to like feel
yeah.
that whole half hour where it's just pure tension cutting between like 4 different worlds.
Yeah.
That shouldn't make any sense at all.
And the emotional catharsis of Killian, the Killian character connecting with his father.
I know. I also think
the whole
there's-
Inception moment of opening the safe.
I think that that's one of the things I actually have the problem with the most for Inception is I actually don't think that the Killian story that's supposed to be one of the heart pieces works at all in that movie.
I think
That's
it's
what my big-
insanely cool. Like
I think that the Leo stuff works immaculately
hey,
well.
Leonardo DiCaprio, talented actor.
I think
Hot take.
that stuff
Good at his job.
all works really well. The JGL stuff works
I
well.
like how
I do not
Christopher
like the
Nolan
Killian
decided to
stuff.
cast himself as Leonardo DiCaprio in Inception.
I also it reminds me of like how like the specifics of who they're robbing in like Ocean's 11 don't hit super hard either. It doesn't matter that much.
It's
Like it's about the job. It's
then,
like
yeah.
you like they have a job to do and they're doing it and you're watching the job. Like the end result of the job doesn't matter that much.
Yeah.
And I also like it because I think that it sort of does an understatedly good job of sort of depicting like how depression works in a lot of ways. Without even meaning to necessarily, but like the idea of like once the kernel is like put in Mal's brain that this isn't real, like it just consumes her.
She's trapped.
Yeah, because every thought goes back to that point, and it's that it reminds me a lot of the blue memory balls and Inside Out, like that sort of like such a like it's a very tangible depiction of how something innate in your brain works, and I think that's kind of cool.
That's a great read.
It's just
and Inception is the movie that led to Oppenheimer. Like, because that movie was as big as it wasn't he doesn't get to make Oppenheimer because of Batman. He gets to make it because of Inception.
And he gets to make Interstellar because of Inception, though.
Right.
Yeah, like
but I mean that's what started. That was the first step.
He doesn't make any of those things without Memento. Without Memento becoming the sensation that is. If you're going to use the argument of like what led to what stepping stone to jump off.
It's not the argument. Inception is my favorite. Like it's my favorite one. I think it hits insanely hard. And if you don't like it, I mean, you probably just don't like Christopher Nolan movies that much because it's like the most Nolan movie.
So what's the top two?
You tell me. Inception or Interstellar? You guys fight this out.
I mean, no. For
I'm
me,
sitting out on this.
What do you
argument.
think?
For me, it's definitely Inception because a lot of the heart stuff he sticks in Interstellar is like it works in the moment, and then you're like, that was dumb.
What's your Interstellar take?
I think both of them are really, really good movies with flaws. And that's how I feel about almost every fucking Christopher Nolan movie is that he
Hunter's
can't have
acting
his
like
way
he's such a hater. I'm staring at a bunch of 4.5 stars.
3.5 stars on here. A lot of 3 stars.
Inception.
I think
Interstellar to me is like what he can do on such a massive scale.
So
like the most massive scale.
I understand the more of the importance of Inception since it did come first. Without revisiting either of these movies in a number of years, to be honest, I think Interstellar captures the spectacle better than Inception does.
Yeah.
I think Inception it's not Nolan's fault at this point that the whole like fucking Inception moment of cities bending on each other has now been like used to death and in the worst possible things in like Doctor Strange movies and shit like that. That's not Chris's fault. But I think that the idea of the spectacle, and there's certain key moments in Interstellar that are ingrained in my mind more, not just from a visual level, but from a storytelling level.
Emotional.
Specifically, whenever I'm thinking about the planet where they go to and the time moves at a different pace, and then coming back from that and realizing all the time that's lost.
Timmy turns into
the fucking fourth dimensional library where Hal is talking with you. Yeah, it's corny as shit. Again, if we're like
as
taking
the
out
son
things,
of a mother, as the nephew of a female aunt.
You know what? I changed my mind. I'm moving The Prestige back up to number 1.
A movie about a bunch of guys being dudes. That's all he can do. Just lads.
He loves the boys.
I love Interstellar.
He's a dude where if he had, I mean, a lot of his movies wouldn't translate to a past era, but like he could have written movies in like the 50s and been really successful.
Yeah.
It's one of those things I've talked about before with Nolan. I'm not actually a Nolan hater. I just like to play it up a little bit. I think one of the things about Nolan that frustrates me is that I think he's so close to being like
an all-timer.
Just one of my guys, to being an all-timer, but he just does a few things that they always irk me. They're just ever present in everything that he does. And I think there's a couple times where he gets close.
Can be true. I think he can be flawed and be an all-timer.
I mean, I think by default he's a fucking all-timer for our generation, because where are the auteurs who are getting the budgets that he's getting? And by default he's just
succeeding with budget. Like never having scale like outscale them. You know, he didn't, for all you can say, because I agree that all his movies have flaws, but like he never got too much money that he didn't know what to do with, where it was like a Marvel situation where it's like, what the fuck are you doing with this money, bro?
Yeah.
Like you see the fucking money when he makes a movie. Like it looks like fucking money.
Yeah. I mean, to me, Interstellar has the best performance with Matthew McConaughey. I think it's his best expression of like a sentimentality that he's been able to do. I know it's corny.
maybe almost the only.
I know it's corny as hell, but like
that is true. I
love
actually
being
felt
a force that transcends time and space. Like it just fucking works in that.
maybe
movie.
it's just because they say it over and over again, but that is the only time that I think I've really like felt in a Nolan movie. In
great
the same
performances. There's a tactility to it. Like it's not just people in front of a green screen. Like you can feel like they're actually traveling through space.
Yeah.
It's my favorite. I love it. I went into this whole year, leading up to Oppenheimer, just really hanging on to that Prestige is number one take, and then revisiting all of these. I was like,
Prestige being at 7 is fucking.
Listen, I've been
Yeah.
on this for a minute. I had to watch it for a class a few years ago, and I was a little bit upset because I was like, this is supposed to be the one, man.
Prestige rules.
Not
I don't know
quite.
what you're talking
Just
about.
watch it, man. I'm
Yeah, it's
telling
great.
you, you're not
I love
gonna,
it.
I mean,
Yeah.
you probably will say that you'll be like, yeah, no, it's still my number one, but it
Yeah.
won't be. Just know that it won't be.
okay,
I'm actually following number 1 is my take.
we have
I think
to,
he peaked before he got any budget.
we have to wrap it up.
Yeah.
So thank you all for tuning in for Barbenheimer, supersized, extra long IMAX scale
70 millimeter
Episode.
podcast.
Stick around for a couple more chill episodes before our series.
Yeah,
I'm planning-
This was a chill one.
We're planning on giving
A chill
you
short-
Chill 180 minutes.
we're planning on giving you a couple more little transitionary episodes before we get into the series next month, the Tom and Tom series. So stick around for that. Thank you all for listening. Rate, review, subscribe, like, and comments. Let us know your thoughts on Barbie and Oppenheimer. Check out weboughtamic.net. Get up every episode in your inbox. Join the Discord. Donate. Thank you, beautiful donors, for donating. Next week, taking the week off. You got an extra long episode.
Mhm.
Make it last.
You
Make
got
it
Barb
count.
and Heimer.
And then it's the lead up to Tom and Tom. Okay. So the first episode of Tom and Tom is Top Gun, but we got a couple more extra special episodes before then. So stick around for that. In the meantime, love your dolls, love your bombs. I am Become Death, destroyer of Kens.
Don't blow up your dolls.
We love you. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Kaboom.